humanity has rejected me so damn hard. So, what is the payback? Reverse. Those were all of my intros starting from 2020 all the way to 2026, even though that last intro I showed you all was made in 2025. It's an intro collection I have fond nostalgia over. And I also have fond nostalgia over 2 school years I consider to be above a 9 out of 10. And I'm not going to reveal them just yet. But for right now, we gotta go from the worst to the best. Starting with what I consider to be, in my opinion, my least favorite school year. There is literally one clip that solidifies my thoughts on my kindergarten year. Let me play it for you all.
What the hell is this?
Yeah, after some careful deciding, I believe kindergarten might actually be worse than 2nd grade now. Sure, kindergarten has its fair share of really enjoyable moments, but when you look at the school year itself, it is absolutely awful. And I enrolled in this grade right after one of my favorite years of all time, which is my pre-K year from 2012 to 2013. And in short, my kindergarten year is basically the anti-pre-K year. And there's almost nothing about this school year that stands out from my pre-K year, other than transitioning to an elementary school. And this school year that began the transition is just not beginner friendly and is overall very torturous, mentally. Throughout almost my entire kindergarten school year, I was actually mentally handicapped. And if I'm mentally handicapped at the age of 5, I am bound to cause a lot of trouble. And that is exactly what happened in my kindergarten year. The details of my behavior in my kindergarten review of my elementary school ranking were kind of vague. While yes, I did explain to everyone that my kindergarten self had a phobia of flies, and I even admitted that my kindergarten self was an extreme wimp who cried all the damn time. But those were just the tip of the iceberg, and you could make an argument that those behaviors presented right here were kind of normal for kindergartners. But not for the bottom half of the iceberg. I quite literally f***ing kicked the assistant bus driver. And that's literally all because the small bus had assigned seats and I was not allowed to sit with my brother. Well, after that abysmal incident that happened quite literally on the first day of school, the faculty of the bus let me sit with my brother so that that incident will never happen again. I've literally only gotten through a minute of this shit and I've already cringed my ass off. And another big problem with my kindergarten self that I did not point out in my elementary school year ranking is that I was pretty racist. Now, I wasn't racist because I said a particular word that would definitely upset the YouTube community, but I was racist because I had specific views on the colored classmates of my class. And because I was a mentally handicapped idiot back in 2013, I didn't want to sit with any of them, which goes to show how absolutely abysmal my behavior is in kindergarten. And in a 10th grade interview in my studio in art class, one of my friends from my kindergarten class admitted that I was an absolute dick in kindergarten. That was not my perspective. That was a real person's perspective about how garbage my kindergarten self was. And speaking of the classmates, are the classmates any better than my behavior?
No!
While none of them are particularly awful, I was assigned in one of the most generic classes of all time. Instead of being honored by tons of girls in my previous year, which is my pre-K year, there was absolutely no girls my age in that class, just 7 other boys, which makes this already difficult experience even more difficult. Okay, it wasn't really that bad since I made friends with almost half of the classmates, but one of those friends is a friend that I already made in my pre-K year, and one of them was a friend who thought my kindergarten self was an absolute dick. Followed by a third friend who is really interested in the Mario series and apparently thinks that I wasn't a dick in my kindergarten school year. Whatever you say, man. Those 3 classmates were like my only friends back in kindergarten, and they all went into my Toy Story birthday party of 2014. And the last major problem that I have with kindergarten is that I had summer school. Yeah, I'm not joking about the summer school part. This is the main reason why kindergarten is my least favorite school year of all time. So you want to know what I was enrolled in summer school for? It was not the grades, but it was my behavioral issues. More proof as to why my kindergarten self is an absolute embarrassment. I can't believe I wasted almost my entire summer for this dumbass year. But the only good and memorable thing about summer school was that it was the year where I got to ride a bike without any training wheels. And that event made me bike almost all the time nowadays. Even though kindergarten is my least favorite school year of all time, there were still at least a couple of positives about it. First of all, the 5 teachers in this class were pretty decent. They were very patient teachers who knew how to treat special education students. And they were one of the main highlights to this otherwise very bad school year. And there were at least more than a dozen days where I actually enjoyed my school day. Such as the day where I showed everyone who Antonio Vivaldi is because I listened to his music every single night. And this year had good intentions to be a beginner year, but it just didn't work. Even when I was in kindergarten, I absolutely could not stand being in kindergarten and wanted to move to first grade very quickly. This was all based off of a memory from my church where I had to wear a name tag and the grade was on the name tag, and I absolutely could not stand having the name kindergarten on the name tag. Oh my golly, this was such a bad year. I never want to think about kindergarten ever again after this video. I'm actually getting sick of having bad memories about kindergarten. It is an absolutely insulting year and should have done what pre-K already did. But no, instead I didn't get any girl classmates whatsoever. My phobia of flies was literally a daily basis, and my behavior throughout kindergarten can fuck off. At least my Toy Story birthday party was okay. And I also forgot to mention that this was the first year where I got to play Disney Infinity, which was in the 2013 era. And I gotta say, I was actually really good at the game at such a young age. But yeah, even though 2013 is one of my favorite years overall, kindergarten better watch itself because kindergarten absolutely ruined 2013. Hopefully the next one won't make me cringe as hard. I think we can all unanimously agree that freshman year is not great. And originally, my 9th grade school year was going to be placed at number 13 over 2nd grade, but screw it, I am bumping 2nd grade up to number 13. You wanna know why? Simple. 9th grade truly is a disastrous mess of a school year. And similarly with kindergarten, this school year does absolutely nothing that improves from its previous year, which was 8th grade. And I originally disliked 8th grade, but somehow this school year made me like 8th grade? That goes to show how much terrible elements there are in 9th grade alone. Even though freshman year remains very rough for most people, I thought the first 2 months of my freshman year are pretty alright, excluding August. And that's because the first day of 9th grade wasn't even in September, it was on August 31st. And what me and the freshmen did on August 31st was basically taking a tour around the high school since this was our first time. And there were no sophomores, juniors, or seniors present, which makes this a very unique first day of school. And honestly, throughout the first couple of days, I thought this school year would be promising. But it isn't. If you combine the absolutely abysmal structure of the students, and some of the worst academic classes, you are in for a treat because this is one of my absolute worst experiences I've ever had with school. First of all, the classes this year are just so unnecessarily difficult. Now, I didn't hate physical education or anything, but only 2 out of the 4 sports I played were good. And football and volleyball just frustrate me out of my mind. Also, Roy Gethard was in that class. One time while I was trying to practice football, Roy Gethard randomly said that there was some guy with long hair that has a crush on me.
What the f is
This is literally one of a few classes where I'm sharing classes with Roy Gethard in this one school year alone. At least badminton throughout 9th grade was really fun, and floor hockey was pretty alright. And that is why I believe physical education is mostly a good way to start off my 9th grade day. And I am saying mostly because I do not have physical education every day. I only have it every other day because my second period class and sometimes my first period class is Earth Science. This class is boring, annoying, and stupid, but at least the last portion of the class makes up for it. And that's because we were learning about astronomy in the last portion of the class, which would later become my favorite science class and one of my favorite classes of 10th grade. But anyways, back to Earth Science. The CERs are so stupid. Almost every single day, my Earth Science teachers assigns these labs, and every single lab has CERs. And even if you complete the entire lab without doing the CERs, it's still gonna be marked as incomplete. What type of class is this? Seriously, just mark it with a respectable grade instead of marking it as incomplete. Because of the CERs themselves, my grade for Earth Science is a low passing grade of 77.03%. And I also had a Regents for this class, and I barely passed the Regents with a 70%. If only the CER passes weren't worth more tickets than the homework passes, then maybe I would be able to enjoy Earth Science. But no, instead it's just a bad class in the midst of bad classes throughout 9th grade. So anyways, my third period class before I dropped out of design and drawing is lunch, and I'm not going to be counting that because lunch doesn't really count as a class. But I did make some great friends along the way, but once again, Roy Gethard was in that class. So anyways, my third period class for quarters 3 and 4 would be everyday law. This class is literally just wealth management, but except a lot worse because why on earth are there so many online assignments? In fact, the online assignments are the main reason why I'm absolutely struggling with this class in 9th grade. In fact, I couldn't even finish the assignments myself. I had to let my 9th grade counselor help me, which really proves that being dependent in 9th grade is literally a necessity. But thankfully, I did pass the class with a 71.33%, which is still very close to failing. At least the teacher of this class was pretty nice enough, and some of the classmates were nice enough, but man, this class is absolute boring as shit. So anyways, now on to my fourth period class, which might actually take the cake for the worst math course I have ever taken, which would be geometry. I really do not know why I get the hardest classes in freshman year, but man, this class is so difficult I literally gave up final quarter. It was that brutal. And this is judged by someone who is known for being really good at math. So you know geometry is looking real bad in 9th grade. I literally gave up final quarter of geometry all because I had 2 homeworks per day in geometry. 2 motherfucking homeworks. And they were not easy homeworks either. Some of them were so difficult I literally couldn't even start them. Well, that's the entirety of geometry for you. It's a terrible class. The only reason I wanted to take geometry was that I was really good at algebra, and I thought it would be best to skip intro to geometry. And boy, did I make a mistake. Let's also not forget that geometry is a Regents-based math course, which could explain why I had to do so much work. And I barely passed the Regents, literally by 1 point, which goes to show that geometry is an absolute stressful class and one of my least favorites in all of 9th grade. So the overall grade for geometry is still a passing grade overall with a 76.59%. The only good thing about my geometry class is that my geometry teacher ended up being my financial algebra teacher in 12th grade. And once again, Roy Gethard was in that class. And there was actually one moment where I tried to catch Roy Gethard in 4K making out with a girl right outside of the classroom. But it backfired and he ended up slashing my hand. Didn't know this Roy Gethard guy is the king of furries. Anyways, my 5th period class is English, which is surprisingly one of the 3 classes of 9th grade that I did not completely dislike. Sure, this class is not that great, but it's better than every class that I have talked about so far. Well, excluding physical education. The lessons were definitely more intriguing, even though I kind of struggled with this class for a little bit. The Greek mythology lessons are really boring and time-wasting, but the chapter books throughout 9th grade English are the main highlight of this class. The first chapter book I read was a murder mystery called And Then There Were None, which easily became one of my favorite chapter books after reading just a couple of chapters. I forever love murder mystery themes in books and shows, and this is absolutely no exception. And the movie became one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. The Outsiders is still better though. And the second book I read in my English class is a play called Romeo and Juliet. You all know what that romance story is. Instead of the teacher reading the book out loud to all of the students, we actually get to play all of the characters. There was even one day where me and my friend did a little sword fight in front of the class, and it was chaos, but I loved it. And no, we did not use actual swords, we used pool noodles instead. Overall, this class is good, but it has one problem. Roy Gethard is in this class too. He was literally assigned as my partner one day, and he's just not a fun person to talk to. And because of how unbearably unlikable he was throughout the YouTube drama in 2023, it was absolutely satisfying when one of the classmates in my class beat him with a pool noodle. I was literally laughing during that moment. And well deserved. He literally got me into trouble in design and drawing. Anyways, the average grade for English is 79%. Now on to my 6th period class, which is easily the worst class of the year, design and drawing. If there's one sentence I need to describe design and drawing, I hated it, and I will never stop hating it. There are so many terrible elements to this horseradish that I might as well just conclude talking about this school year because there are just so many terrible elements to 9th grade. The teacher is an absolute idiot. Even though I can appreciate him nowadays, what he did in design and drawing is just so stupid. Roy Gethard is on his phone for the majority of the class, and the teacher does absolutely nothing about it. But when I'm on my phone, he looks at me and wants me to put my phone away. That is literally the definition of hypocrisy. And I've had my assigned seat moved multiple times. Not just because of Roy Gethard arguing with me, but because I was flirting with a girl in that class. On Google Chat, of course. And no, the girl that was in my design and drawing class was not Miley. But no, instead it's a girl named Mariah who has a crush on me, even though she said she doesn't have a crush on me, but she clearly does have a crush on me, so whatever. I eventually dropped out of the class on November 18th after arguing with a Pakistani classmate named Muhammad. Now, I've already had problems with this Muhammad kid for a couple of years, but in design and drawing, he truly crosses the line. On November 18th, I was just waiting outside of class and Muhammad refused to get into the class, so I tried pushing him inside the class, which was truly a terrible idea, and I almost got suspended because of this. Instead of getting a suspension, I only got 2 lunch detention days, which was totally better than just being suspended from school. And after that day, I never came back to design and drawing again, and I started to despise 9th grade because of this incident. And what was the overall grade? I failed with a 60%. So the class that I was temporarily in before I moved to everyday law was study hall. And I literally have nothing to say about this class because you literally have nothing to do. I was literally playing Fruit Ninja the whole time while everyone was just doom scrolling on their phones, minding their own businesses. So my 7th period class ended up being Spanish 2 Honors, which is my favorite class of the year, and that's mainly because the average grade for Spanish was higher than an 80, but it's still held back thanks to the students. I really don't know what happened to the students in this class. They started off pretty quiet, smart kids, until they just became really obnoxious for absolutely no reason. And that is why I gave up doing Spanish work in quarter 4 because I just cannot concentrate with these annoying ass students. At least they congratulated me one day because I was the only person in the class who got a 100 on a test one day. This class has the best grade overall, and it's pretty ironic because Spanish 2 Honors is meant to be difficult. The grade is an 87.87%. And the final class that ends off each of my days for 9th grade is Global History 1. I always thought Social Studies was an okay curriculum, and for Global History 1, I thought it was alright other than the students who are really obnoxious in this class too. One of the students in my class literally yelled out, "Nobody cares about you," when all I was doing was telling a joke. And it was an emo girl too, so it makes sense. The classwork is kind of stressful, and that is why this class has one of the weakest grades of all time. but I still passed this class overall with a 74.06%, which is an average grade in 9th grade. Yeah, judging by those grades, you all could really tell I really struggled with this year a lot. But what about the extracurricular activities? They are not great either. I didn't enroll in any of the clubs, I had absolutely no field trips, and I did not participate in any of the school events this year. At least I did go to a winter retreat in Pennsylvania that lasted for 3 days instead of 2. And it makes sense that it was in February because February had the midwinter break. So what about my online reputation from September 2022 to August 2023? There was some good stuff about my online career in 9th grade, but it was kinda rough because I was involved in the Vyond community drama. More specifically, I was involved in the Roy Gethard drama that temporarily ended in late May because Roy Gethard deleted his account after adorable Meggie, also known as Miley, blocked him. Maybe don't try making her unfriend me on Snapchat, you asshole. And right after my last day of 9th grade, I applied for my very first job, which is my mom's job. I worked at a pizza restaurant for the entire summer because I really just didn't have anything to do, but I eventually stopped working there because I had school. And speaking of which, I actually had a real summer that doesn't have summer school at all. It wasn't really that good though because I didn't really do anything interesting with the summer of 2023, but I did make a lot of reviews and hilarious skits, like this for an example.
On me! Hello? Hey, what's up? I need your help. Can you come here? I can't. I'm buying clothes. Alright, well hurry up and come over here. I can't find them. What do you mean you can't find them? I can't find them. There's only soup. What do you mean there's only soup? It means there's only soup. Well then get out of the soup aisle! Alright, you don't have to shout at me! There's more soup! What do you mean there's more soup? There's just more soup! Go into the next aisle! There's still soup! Where are you right now? I'm at soup! What do you mean you're at soup? I mean I'm at soup! What store are you in? I'm at the soup store! Why are you buying clothes at the soup store? Fuck you!
Yeah, I know. Frickin' hilarious. I used to be a huge fan of Splatoon. And I'm gonna be honest, I feel like that's all I have to say about 9th grade. Yes, I know this is a pretty long chapter, but I just had that much to say about 9th grade. If all of those positives and negatives combined together, this could have actually been the worst school year of all time for me. But it isn't, and that's because in mid-April, adorable Meggie kissed me. That is the main reason 9th grade is not ranked last on my list. It's ranked a smidge higher than kindergarten because I wasn't kissed by any girl my age in kindergarten, sadly. But I have in pre-K and 9th grade. While yes, most of 9th grade is bad, but it is relatively saved by socializing with others outside of the school, and of course, the support I get from adorable Meggie.
Really? Oh, what do you think of this face?
Look at you. You are kind of cute.
Why am I so obsessed with this moment? Well, anyways, on to the next chapter. Ninth grade had one teacher that I disliked, but thankfully I only have my design and drawing teacher for 40 minutes a day, which is something that cannot be said for my main teacher of 2nd grade, which I have her throughout the entirety of the school day. So yeah, 2nd grade still sucks. I've definitely treated this elementary school year very harshly initially, and I briefly mentioned in my elementary school year ranking that 2nd grade was my least favorite school year of all time. So how come kindergarten and 9th grade both beat 2nd grade in terms of awfulness now? I managed to store up a lot of good memories in 2nd grade, and those good memories, especially in the summer of 2016, add up the score of 2nd grade by a little bit. But don't get me wrong, this year is still really bad, and there's still a whole shitload of problems with 2nd grade. And I'll dive into those problems right now. The first and most obvious, the teacher fucking sucks. She is so overly strict in the classroom, well, specifically towards me, and constantly puts my stupid behavior pin on the negative colors instead of the good colors. In fact, the behavior charts are actually one of the main problems I have with second grade. While yes, the good and bad even out in this chart, but during the first 4 months of second grade, more than half of the time, my pin was on the negative colors. And I've also gotten my pin on the red spot, also known as the parent contact, at least 20 times overall in this school year. And possibly half of the time, I get in trouble over the stupidest reasons. Like there was one instance where there was one classmate named Malachi who pinched me behind my back, and I told him to stop pinching, and the teacher thinks that I called him a bitch. Okay, first of all, turn your ears on, you brain-dead moron teacher. She's a special education teacher, so she should understand what the special education children are saying. And there was absolutely no hint that my second grade teacher could possibly be deaf, which makes her an even bigger idiot. But the classmate that pinched me was also not the hero of the story, because this is not St. Patrick's Day where you can just randomly pinch people out of nowhere. This teacher just sucks so bad at teaching, and she is easily one of the worst parts of second grade. Even though I was the victim in some circumstances, my behavior in second grade is almost as bad as kindergarten, except not quite as tantrum-inducing. And that's mainly because I fell in love over one of the classmates in my class, and I just didn't have as much annoying elements to second grade as in kindergarten. But nonetheless, my behavior in second grade is absolutely awful though. I quite literally told off one of the classmates using stupid GoAnime humor, as I got invested in this stupid brain rot in 2015, followed by calling out Malachi for pinching me, using the first quote of Mario in Mad Mad Mario.
Now hold on a second, you! What the fuck is your problem? You stupid cunt! Go away, you big rectangular pervert!
I am actually baffled that I used to watch YouTube videos like this. But not even that was the worst part, because there was another event that left off with a bad memory. During recess, I wanted to go on one of the swings, but to no avail, all of the swings were taken. So during this one day, I asked a girl if I could go on the swings, and she said no. So you want to know what my response was? Was it walking away like a real man? Hell no! Instead, I literally threw sand at her, which actually got her sent to the nurse.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me?
Nope, I wasn't kidding, Random Putz 12 quote. That was a real legit event that happened in second grade and got me in so much trouble. Not in legal trouble, of course, because I was only 7. And also in recess, specifically in the 2016 era, I got to see the demolition crew tear down an old preschool. And of course it was right next to my school, so it makes sense for me to see the demolition during recess. And for some reason it took a couple of months, but they eventually got it down. Anyways, what are the classmates like in second grade? They're actually surprisingly not that bad, but there were a couple of students that were just dicks to me for absolutely no reason. But it kind of makes sense for some events because, well, I was a massive dick in second grade as well. So why didn't I refer to the classmates as bad? Well, it's because in November of 2015, I fell in love over a girl in that class whose name is Rachel. And yes, there were girl classmates in my class, but there were only 3 of them out of the 15 classmates. So throughout most of November, I bonded with this Rachel girl until she coincidentally said that she's moving out of the school in December 2015. Literally a month after I, quote-unquote, dated her. And it ended up being a very sad moment for me, and I was literally crying for days just because of how much I miss her. And do you want to know what's the craziest plot twist? 7 years later, in my 9th grade school year, she actually came back to my school district. And get this, I am actually still friends with Rachel today. Of course, we're just sticking as friends because you know why. So that was a very short friendship story that you probably don't even give a shit about. So throughout 1st grade, 2nd grade, and 3rd grade, I was in a completely different elementary school from kindergarten. And this elementary school that I go to for 3 of those years hosts annual spelling bees. And in 1st grade and 3rd grade, I managed to attend the spelling bees. But for some reason in 2nd grade, I didn't even attend the annual spelling bee of 2016. And that's because some other classmates scored a higher score than me in the spelling test. And that classmate ended up being one of my friends from kindergarten, surprisingly. And surprisingly, the last 2 months of 2nd grade were actually very good. I didn't get in trouble nearly as much, the bullies that were in my 2nd grade classroom kind of calmed down. And these special events that took place in 2 of those months, I was invited in all of them. I guess that kind of pays off the torture that I've been through in the first 4 months of 2nd grade. But it still just doesn't even things out, and that is why I still consider 2nd grade to be a bad year. Sure, it does have its fair share of field trips, but 2nd grade in my opinion is just a pure disappointment over 1st grade. But thankfully, I did have a great summer. I went to Splish Splash quite a lot during the summer of 2016. And I went on a lot of slides and I really loved them. I also took theater class for a little bit, playing one of the background characters because I will probably forget my lines. And this play is an Aladdin play, and Aladdin is one of my favorite 2D animated Disney movies, by the way. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about 2nd grade. It's pretty bad, but comparing to the other 2 bad school years of my life, there were a lot more good moments than I remembered. And a key element that made 2nd grade way better than kindergarten is that I did not have summer school. But still, the behavior pin thing is stupid. But like, I've had the behavior chart system from 1st grade through 5th grade. But in 2nd grade, it just feels like the teacher is targeting and harassing me. And also some of the students were dicks, but there were still at least a couple of students that befriended me. But that still doesn't save my behavior from being any more abysmal. But I still had really good memories with Splish Splash and also the Aladdin play.
My pleasure. Congratulations on everything.
And it led me to you.
Ninth grade, also known as my freshman year, was the school year that made me start to despise couples. But when looking at my 12th grade school year, I despise couples even more. That's literally one of many problems I have with my senior year of high school. Because the major problems I have with my 12th grade school year actually outweigh the good stuff about this school year. If it wasn't for my final grades of this school year being higher than ever, 12th grade could have been god-awful and possibly even in my top 3 least favorite school years of all time. So it's basically the grades that saved this school year from being bad. So anyways, without further ado, let's go over the classes of this year, which I honestly think are pretty mixed, honestly. For my first period class, it switches depending on the day. My first period class on odd days would be health. I originally referred to health as one of my favorite classes of 12th grade, and that's all because I was happy that I didn't have to learn the male and female reproductive system. I must have jinxed myself pretty hard, because literally during the first day of quarter 4, the teacher goes over this final unit of health, which was literally the exact same unit that made me dislike health to even begin with. Now, I will say the pregnancy lessons were not nearly as gross as they were in 8th grade, but there were some pregnancy lessons that were just straight up nauseating. Other than the pregnancy unit, all of these other units in health were actually pretty fun. I love how all of them actually relate to health instead of pregnancy and diseases. and it would do a great job at changing people's lives in the upcoming future. I still believe health is a pretty decent class in 12th grade, but man, quarter 4 was the weakest quarter for health, giving itself an average grade of 99.82%. My first period class on even days would be physical education, which is literally the third time where physical education is my first period class, with the other 2 grades being 8th and 9th grade. Anyways, I do consider 12th grade physical education to be an improvement over 11th grade physical education, but it's still not my favorite physical education class. During the first quarter of physical education, me and the classmates went outside to do some activities, and since I wasn't interested in either football or soccer, I took the sophomore year route and decided to walk on the track again, with an added bonus of chatting with one of my friends I've been friends with since 6th grade. When the temperature started to decrease, we went back inside and we played a sport that I'm not really interested in, which is volleyball. And volleyball remains an unfun sport in 12th grade, and for many reasons. First of all, the teams I was assigned to are not great teams. The first team was absolute shit because I was literally the only person doing anything in the team and nobody was even trying. So then I made the decision to leave my first team and then I moved on to another team, which that team was definitely better than the previous one. Of course it wasn't that great, but I did at least get 3rd place in this new team I was in out of the 8 volleyball teams in this tournament. And when I lost to some of the teams, instead of my opposing team members acting like great sportsmen, they proceed to laugh at my face like complete douches, causing me to stick 2 middle fingers at the opposing team. No wonder I'm a misanthrope. The next sport I played after volleyball would end up being my favorite sport of all time, badminton. And badminton for 12th grade ended up being so much more fun than in 11th grade. Instead of waiting in line just to go to different badminton courts, me and the classmates actually played this sport for fun, which literally should have been the case for badminton back in 11th grade. I flex my badminton skills towards girls sometimes, and literally every badminton game in this school year left a positive impact towards me. It's a shame badminton didn't last for a long time, but the next sport I played after badminton also was pretty fun, and that sport would end up being floor hockey, which ended up being very fun as well. And that's all because I got some goals in floor hockey games, with one day in particular where I got 8 goals. And this was also the first year since 8th grade where I actually played nitro ball again. Man, that brings me some good nostalgia vibes. Eventually, when the temperature started to rise back up, we went back outside and I still did my usual routine of walking around the track with my friends, with one of them being Alvy, who was one of my collaborators in my 12th grade analysis video. Some of the students were pretty damn annoying in my 12th grade physical education class, but I still believe 12th grade physical education is an improvement over 11th grade. My second period class for quarters 1 and 2 would be participation in government. Man, this class is seriously boring as hell. But I would not call this the worst class of 12th grade because the teacher was nice and there's not any tests or projects at all. This was also the class where I brought home a student magazine to study the GDP per capita of every country. And the magazine was not wrong when they said that Burundi has the lowest GDP per capita, because that country does. The students were also nice enough, but there's just not much memorable stuff going on in participation and government. The work kind of blows, there's not much to do in this class, and the lessons in this class are pretty generic because we've been learning a lot about the US in the previous social studies classes. I don't hate this class or anything, but it certainly is not one of my favorites, giving itself a high average grade of 96.43%. My second period class for quarters 3 and 4 would be wealth management. I was pretty harsh on this class initially, and for a couple of reasons. First of all, I had a field trip for this class, which ended up being the only field trip I've had for 12th grade. And because the UBS arena trip was so much fun, that's what started to make me appreciate wealth management. Second of all, wealth management is one of the only classes in my entire school curriculum that I achieved a 100 average. And third of all, the student environment is actually really fun. Sure, they may be annoying, but I actually got used to them. The work in this class is kind of a pain in the ass to get through, and that is why I called wealth management a bad class back in my 12th grade analysis video. However, some of the projects were not that bad. I actually found a dream home in the state of Alaska, and the interior happens to be really nice on the inside. Wealth management is still a painfully average class, but it still gets the perfect average grade of 100%. My third period class for quarters 1 and 2 would be Photoshop, which ended up being my favorite class of 12th grade. And do you want to know what's funny? My Photoshop class takes place in the exact same classroom that I had computer animation, in which that class ended up being my favorite class for 11th grade. What are the odds? These are all of my projects I made in Photoshop, and they are beautiful. It's not really biased because they are beautiful. Hold up. Obviously gotta have a personal poster because, you know, that's what I am. Love all these characters. Quadratic finale. And I also put country flags on their respected maps. I changed the colors of cars. I added Moist Critical because he's goated. Broken text. The 4 elements and the 12 places I would visit. Number 1's Tokyo because I love Japan. Shadow Project. 2025 holiday light bulb, and then there's me infinite looped. Yes, I know that whole video was basically a repost, and that's all because I already finished Photoshop. It's really a shame that it was one of those classes that I didn't even have for the entirety of the year. So anyways, the overall grade for Photoshop is 95.83%. It's really a shame that I only had Photoshop for the first half of the year, because my third period class for quarters 3 and 4 would be economics. Like with wealth management, this class actually did get better after quarter 3. And that's all because we weren't learning about the boring ass unit of supply and demand. Instead, we went over certain topics that I wanted economics to talk about. And one of those lessons ended up being GDP, also known as the gross domestic product. The teacher was very nice here, but the workload in this class was very stupid, and that is why economics is my least favorite class of the year. Thankfully, during the final day of school, me and some of the classmates played Smash Bros in the back, and I won every single match, despite there being items in every single match. The overall grade for economics is 95.05%. My fourth period class for quarters 1 and 2 would be creative writing. When 12th grade just started, I actually wanted to drop out of creative writing, and for 2 reasons. One of them was because I had to write a college essay, while the other one was reading a book at home and writing a whole summary about what the book is about, which remains insanely stupid, but nonetheless, I ended up getting a very high grade in this class. Writing different kinds of creative stories and poems sounds really fun, and for the most part, this class is actually very good. I showed the teacher the story that I've been working on since November 2024, which is called Smash Toon Reality, and I haven't even finished the story yet. There's a total of 7 chapters in this story, and I have typed over 100,000 words. And by the way, most of these characters in my story are based on my personalities. So anyways, creative writing is one of my favorite classes in all of 12th grade, and my favorite English class of all time, giving itself an extremely high average grade of 99.92%. The only reason why it's not 100% is because I turned in a worksheet late. My 4th period class for quarters 3 and 4 would be financial algebra, which is practically the same exact class as business math, except a little bit harder. Not really by much, because the work is still pretty easy. This is a project-based type of class, and that's not good. There was literally only one test in this class, and I aced it. And my financial algebra teacher was the exact same teacher that I had for geometry back in 9th grade. And during the last few days of school, we played a lot of really cool games like GeoGuessr and Wordle. Nothing more I gotta say about this class compared to my 12th grade analysis video. Financial algebra is a good math course, although it is one of my least favorite math courses of all time. It gets an average grade of 99.82%. My 5th period class would be electricity and electronics, which is my 2nd favorite class of 12th grade. This is the only hands-on class I have for 12th grade, and I gotta say, it's a really fun class aside from some of the students being annoying dickheads. The actual electric projects that I've been working on in electricity and electronics managed to be really cool, and I brought most of them home. The first project I made in electricity and electronics is this cross project where there is a light bulb inside, and I just have to put these 2 thingies onto hold up. Oh, it works. It works. I saw a little bit. It's oh, it works. It works. And most of these other electricity projects I've been working on require batteries, and I'll show you how all of these function. This is the nightlight project, and you can imagine what nightlights are. This is the Christmas light project, where there's just 2 lights blinking. Sorry to all the people who get seizures from light. The next project was sort of an operation type project, you know, Operation the game. Well, basically, if these 2 metal things come together, it makes this noise. And you know what happens when the tape comes off? It's even louder. The next project was the police car siren project, where basically, if you turn this switch on, crazy stuff will happen. It's not an effect. This is actually a real noise. The next electrical project was the heads or tails one, where basically you have to press this button and you have to ask it a question, and then when you press this button, it's gonna say yes or no. For an example, will I ever get a real life girlfriend? No! Come on! The next project I worked on is the charger project, where basically I had to make my own phone charger. I had to use like a used car battery in order to make this project work. You see I have a cord right here. I'm just gonna plug it in. And it's plugged in. And I just got a random phone. And I'm gonna plug this thing in. And let's see if it charges. And I forgot to turn it on. I'm sorry. And it works. It charges. And then I worked on this monorail train-like project where basically I had to do this. There were a lot of other pretty cool projects I've done, and this is the Mortal Kombat one, because, you know, I had to use, like, some type of logo to light up, and I chose the Mortal Kombat one for some reason. I've also done some pretty cool projects like residential wiring, but I couldn't take it home. I also had a finals for this class, and I aced the test with a 90%. And that goes to show how great of a class electricity and electronics really is as a class. I am glad to have this class throughout the entirety of the school year, which is sadly what most 12th grade classes cannot accomplish, giving electricity and electronics a high average grade of 98.18%. My 6th period class would be Resource Room, which is basically a study hall class but adds in one new thing, prepping the seniors into doing college stuff, in which I never really wanted to apply for a college because college is way too expensive, especially nowadays in America. And I don't want to be that one guy struggling to pay student loans. At least my teacher was super nice and also very supportive. And the 3 classmates that were in my class were all super nice as well. My 7th period class for quarters 1 and 2 would be Math and Trades, which is yet again another great math course. Nothing too special goes on in this class, as it's mainly just a math course for people who want to go to trade school, since I was originally planning on going to trade school. But now I have no idea if I should do it. Anyways, this class is about learning the trades in math form, which I thought was a pretty solid idea for this class, but this class has never really rubbed with me and never really has become one of my favorite math courses. Still though, Math and Trades is a pretty solid math course, giving itself a high average grade of 97.17%. My 7th period class for quarters 3 and 4 would be Science Fiction and Fantasy. Once again, it's a great English class, but just like with creative writing, it did not start off well. Literally during the first couple of weeks with this class, I literally had to write another dumb college essay, which has virtually nothing to do with science fiction and fantasy. But when we actually learned about time machines and AI, I started to really like this class. I especially love the teacher's movie choices, such as Back to the Future, WALL-E, and Interstellar, in which all 3 of those movies are in my top 50 favorite movies of all time. Some of the students were pretty annoying in this class, but I did make new friends in this class, giving Science Fiction and Fantasy a high average grade of 93.39%. And the final class that would end off each of my 12th grade school days would be piano. This is the first and last instrument-based type of class, and honestly, for how stressed out I've been over this school year, it's honestly great that the school day ends off with a very peaceful class, which is piano. The teacher was amazing, the students there sucked, and that's all because they love to bring in their dates, and I really don't know why. But at least I did have a great and peaceful time just playing on the piano. Also, there was one project where we had to talk about a composer. And that classical composer that I've listened to since I was a little boy was Antonio Vivaldi. And because there's not that much work in piano class, every week during this period, I oftentimes go to my counseling group, which features 2 collaborators from my 12th grade analysis video, Lucille and Sarah. Anyways, piano class is one of my favorite classes in all of 12th grade, giving itself an average grade of 100%. I do believe the classes have gotten better over the last few months, and the grades absolutely saved 12th grade from being one of my all-time least favorite school years. Anyways, what were the extracurricular activities like? For some reason that the school cannot even explain, I didn't have a senior field trip for this year. But I did thankfully have one field trip, which was that UBS Arena trip. I attended 2 school clubs this year, and one of them was really good while the other one was pretty disappointing. The school club that I attended for almost the entirety of the year that I really liked was the Bible Club, which was a club I went to mainly to learn more about Jesus Christ and his teachings. And almost every single time when I'm at the Bible Club on Mondays, it leaves a very big impact on my life. And unsurprisingly, pretty much every single member of the Bible Club was incredibly nice. And I'm located on the right of this picture. That was almost every Monday from November 2025 to June 2026. And there was actually another club that I attended every Tuesday, which would be the Robotics Club. And I can't really say I had a great time there, as I mainly wanted to go there for the field trips, but to no avail, I was not invited in any of them. So after being in this club for a few months, I eventually left, even though I still was technically a robotics club member, up until the final day of school. Anyways, the actual school events were kind of a mixed bag. The first school event I attended was the pep rally, in which the tickets were free, and I really enjoyed it. There was a robot from the robotics club shooting shirts at an audience of more than 100 students. And after a couple of shots, I successfully caught and grabbed one of the shirts. And I wore that exact same shirt on my final day of school. It was a pretty fun experience, but the only problem I had with the pep rally was the couples dancing in front of everybody. Oh my god, who the hell gives a shit? But that would actually end up lowering my expectations for the homecoming dance, because I absolutely despise the homecoming dance. The homecoming dance took place on the exact same day as the pep rally, and I am beyond scams that I wasted $25 for a stupid ass dance. I did have a group of friends in this homecoming dance, and even though the majority were girls, there were no girls in this homecoming dance that wanted to dance with me, and the DJ literally had the audacity to force the boys to ask out the girls.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me?
Seriously, couples, just fuck off. And it's no wonder I didn't go to senior prom, because not only is it damn expensive, like $125 for a ticket, but it's because no girl wanted to go to prom with me.
Single people deserve to live. They need the love.
Thankfully, I was invited to an award ceremony, in which I haven't done those since 6th grade. And do you want to know what I got an award for? It was for my academic achievement, since my grades in 10th grade, 11th grade, and especially 12th grade have been so high. I also let tons of people sign my yearbook, since I got my yearbook pretty early this year. And also during the last day of school, I took selfies with my previous teachers, and I was in the crowd of seniors for this final countdown before school finally ends.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And then afterwards, I sprinted away from the school like a madman.
Now what I wish for.
That was the moment I freed from prison, aka my 12th grade school year. Anyways, the out-of-school activities were pretty fun. Not exactly the greatest of all time, but still fun. I met my Australian online friend in person, whose name is Becky, back in December 2025. In which the online friendship dates back into August 2020, back when my username was called Iggy Fan #1. I actually had to take a day off from school just because I met Becky, but that was still the best decision I could ever make. The vacations in 12th grade were mostly the same as 11th grade, like the Kalahari Water Resort vacation back in January, the Florida vacation dating back into Christmas 2025, in which I got that Meloetta plush on Christmas Eve. It did add in new vacations like the Christmas retreat in Pennsylvania, which I haven't done since 10th grade. And I also did a little bit of hiking, which was also located in Pennsylvania. Quite a few hobbies I've done in 12th grade was pretty much biking around my neighborhood almost every single day because I'm obsessed with looking for abandoned houses. I work at the same exact bagel store for almost 2 years now. I tried binge watching anime the same way that I binge watched anime in 11th grade, but the only anime I truly binge watched was Frieren. And get this, I can actually drive. Now, I don't have my license yet, I only have my permit, but I am planning on getting my license in the summer of 2026, where I will be off of YouTube by then. And one final thing before I move on to the next chapter. I studied geography way too much this year. In fact, I studied it so much that I reviewed literally every country from the top being the best to the bottom being the worst. And that is pretty much everything I could say about my 12th grade school year. I will say 12th grade had a lot of good stuff going for it, but when looking at the school days themselves, my cortisol level is so high that I literally can't even describe how I feel about this school year. It's just not a good year, and I would rate this school year lower than average. And that's all thanks to my high cortisol level, the students being absolute dicks, and the high school couples absolutely degrading my positive thoughts on high school. I just wish they could leave other people alone, and that is why I am constantly losing friends day in and day out. At least there was a lot more stuff to do in 12th grade compared to the 3 previous bad years, and that is why I do not consider 12th grade to be a bad year overall. It's just an incredibly mediocre year, and a year I most likely will forget about in 5 years. Also, YouTube did not get me the YouTube Partner Program after 7 years of hard work, which I am still pissed off about. Anyways, on to the next chapter. I have so little to say about my preschool year to the point where I don't even know if this should be a chapter. But in short, this is easily the most forgettable school year of all time. And for being a forgettable school year, it actually makes sense because the first day of preschool was in September of 2011. So how does a 3 to 4 year old child remember anything? Well, unless if you're Rebecca Chirac, there is absolutely no way any preschooler is going to remember exactly what happened in their preschool year. Well, there is one memorable event that happened outside of preschool. I was a huge fan of Blue's Clues. In fact, a lot of people were big fans of Blue's Clues when they were children. And from 2011 to 2013, I was like absolutely addicted to this show. And I just couldn't stop watching it to the point where Blue's Clues became my #1 childhood show of all time. Anyways, was I supposed to review the school year itself? No, because I don't give a crap. In 2011, I was actually diagnosed with autism, and get this, the diagnosis center took place in my preschool. Okay, that's all I have to say about my preschool year. It's, in my opinion, the most average school year of all time, and the first school year of many that I consider to be passable. It's just the year of all time for me. Looking back when I last reviewed 7th grade, I audibly said this. Perhaps I treated it too harshly. And yes, I'm dead serious when I'm saying this, because I actually kind of like 7th grade now. It's definitely not a perfect year, and it does remain the weakest middle school year, but there's still a lot to like about a school year, That took place right during the coronavirus pandemic of 2020. And when I combined pandemic and school year, we all had to wear face masks throughout the entire school year. I hated this idea at first, but after a couple of months, I've gotten used to wearing face masks at school. Well, throughout 7th grade, because I don't wear face masks anymore. And the school schedule from September to October is really stupid. I literally only went to actual school 2 days a week from September to October. And the 3 other days, which are Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I took virtual classes with my parents. And boy, those first 2 months were not a great start off to 7th grade. School was open on Mondays and Tuesdays, but only students with last names A to K are able to attend, while students from last names L to Z get to go to school on Thursdays and Fridays, and I was in the L to Z category. Thankfully, by November, school was open for Mondays and Tuesdays now, and all of the students get to be together again, no matter what their last name is. And eventually, around February 2021, school was officially open for 5 days a week again. And that I won't have to worry about virtual learning again. That's literally how the schedule works in a school year revolving around the coronavirus pandemic. The classes throughout 7th grade are kind of mixed, and that's based on different factors. Like on one hand, some of the grades in this school year are complete garbage, while there's another side of me really liking the teachers in 7th grade, and they often just leave off a very positive environment for me. Anyway, so my first period class is Social Studies 7, which is one of the best 7th grade classes academically, but I did not like Social Studies 7, honestly. The work was just so boring and difficult to the point where I actually had to do the social studies work in my counselor's office. And actually watching videos and answering questions from the videos is one of the stupidest things schools ever do to people, like what happened in marine science for 11th grade. Sometimes even the students help me in this class, which is why the grade for 7th grade social studies is the best grade overall in 7th grade with an 88.87%. The next class I have after social studies is science for 7th grade, which is one of those classes I struggled academically, but I ended up surprisingly enjoying it more than social studies 7. The labs throughout science 7 are actually kind of interesting. And it's sometimes carried by the teacher putting Jeopardy music on. He was mainly playing the Jeopardy theme while we were just doing our labs, and honestly, this small moment is a pretty nostalgic portion of my life. He also set up Kahoots occasionally, and even though I've never won a Kahoot in this class, those quizzes are just the peak portion of my life. Aside from the low average grade, I actually had a pretty decent time with Science 7, with an overall average grade of 75.65%. For 3rd period, the classes kind of switch back and forth depending on the day. For 3rd period on A days, I have General Music 7, which is a class I absolutely struggled in 1st quarter, but for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th quarter, the average grades absolutely saved me from failing General Music 7. Me and the classmates learned about all different types of musics, including different music genres, and even different instruments like the guitar for an example. Unfortunately, in the music genre portion, we were listening to rap. Yeah, I hate rap. But we were listening to some really interesting bands like Stomp for an example, which is literally all percussion, but I was still really invested in Stomp. We occasionally did try to create music on our Chromebooks, and we also somewhat learned how to play some instruments. Not much really goes on in General Music 7 since, well, this is a music class. During the 1st quarter, I failed that quarter, but 2nd, 3rd, and 4th quarter absolutely pushed this grade from a 57 to an 82.62%. My 3rd period class on B days would be lunch. And honestly, I have quite a few things to remember about 3rd period lunch. So I made a friend in that class whose name is Connor, who is about 1 year older than me. And we would basically talk about school and how our academics are. And we would occasionally talk about school bullying and how to get out of it, since I was bullied in 7th grade. Specifically, it was by someone named Michael. And no, I'm not talking about that Michael. So anyways, my 4th period class would be English 7, which literally has the worst grade out of every single class that I have ever taken. But I cannot fully hate it because I actually really liked my English teachers in 7th grade. And because my YouTube name was called Iggy Fan #1 and I liked to promote my YouTube channel back then, the teacher literally bought an Iggy Koopa plush in the first month of school. And he literally put the Iggy Koopa plush on the smartboard for the entire school year, which is just absolutely hysterical. And that teacher who bought the Iggy Koopa plush is one of my favorite teachers of all time. So anyways, why is English 7 the worst class of the year? First of all, the work is stupid, and literally every single week, the teachers set up this online assignment where we have to write a 200-word paragraph on certain topics. And I was absolutely not built for that level of writing yet. Which is why English 7 is one of the only classes in my entire school curriculum that I actually failed. At least I read 2 really good chapter books, which were A Long Walk to Water, which is the real-life experience of Salva Dut from South Sudan, and one of the greatest chapter books of all time, The Outsiders. So even though there were some good moments about my English class in 7th grade, I still failed this class overall with a 54.15%. Which is almost 11% below the passing grade. For 5th period on A days, I have lunch, which there isn't really much to say about lunch. I mean, it's kind of alright, other than being repeatedly bullied by this Michael kid, who called me a lot of really stupid names that middle schoolers usually make up. And I feel like he acted like Roy Gethard UTTP before Roy Gethard UTTP was even a thing. Yeah, he was just your typical asshole. But he once again appears in my 5th period class for B-Days, which ended up being physical education, and I am very mixed over it. We played our typical sports, which I was honestly not a fan of. Football was, once again, boring as shit. Badminton wasn't even fun in 7th grade because, well, it was my first time playing it, and I got a lot better over time. Nitro ball was okay, floor hockey was okay, and volleyball wasn't that great because of my teammates. The teammates that I was assigned with in volleyball ended up being really toxic. I mean, I had one friend named Austin in that team, but there were 2 other teammates who were both female, and one of them literally forced me and Austin to not serve the ball. Man, if this happened to me today, I would have told her to fuck off, and then I would have left the team almost immediately. That's kind of just the scientific proof that I do not play around anymore. Eventually, when the weather started to get warm again, we eventually decided to walk around the middle school track, which was pretty fun aside from one event in June where I quite literally scraped my leg on asphalt. And it was not just a normal injury, my left leg was literally bleeding from the knee all the way to the ankle. And one of my peers named Timothy thought that my left leg was going to get amputated, and I absolutely panicked that one day. Thankfully, my scar did fully disappear, but it took a pretty long time for it to disappear. And a way to end off my 7th grade school year for physical education is playing cornhole with my friend Connor. Not all students in that class were great though. I previously mentioned those volleyball girls and they were pretty damn annoying, but Michael, that one bully that I mentioned before, is also in my physical education class and he has a lot more stuff to say about me. He looks at my legs and says that I have leg hair, which automatically assumes I'm a girl.
Are you fucking crazy?
Someone with an IQ lower than 80 would be able to believe in something like that. Having hairy legs doesn't automatically assume your gender. Physical education for 7th grade is passable enough, but it might honestly be my least favorite physical education class of all time. So anyways, my 6th period class for 1st and 2nd quarter would be technology. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, technology is one of the only classes I actually really like. It's one of the first hands-on classes for me, and I built a lot of really cool projects like a bridge made of popsicle sticks, which was mainly testing how much weight the bridge can hold. And just like in my electricity and electronics class in 12th grade, I made a magnet train, but without the electric components, of course. In my opinion, this is a great class, While it isn't exactly a top 10 worthy class of all time, technology is still one of my favorite classes in 7th grade overall, with an overall grade of 87%. So anyways, my 6th period class for quarters 3 and 4 would be Exploring Entrepreneurship, which is a class that takes place literally in the exact same classroom as technology, except we're learning about how businesses function, which is definitely less interesting than technology, but I still did really well with Exploring Entrepreneurship. We pretended to build our own businesses to try and change the world, which was pretty interesting. Not exactly a super memorable class, but this class does get a high average grade of 86%, literally 1% lower than technology. For 7th period and 8th period, I have Math 7, which is in my opinion the weakest math course excluding geometry. And I think the reason why Math 7 is the weakest math course excluding geometry is that I've had the class for 2 periods a day, which is still way better than having 2 homeworks a day. I just got so bored with this class after a while since I was in that class for literally an hour and 20 minutes, which made me want to go to the counselor's office just to take a 5-minute break each day. But other than that really, the work is a cakewalk. I actually won some of the Kahoots the teachers present, and the work was not all that brutal compared to geometry. I did kind of struggle with some of the quarters, but I ended up having a pretty solid grade by the end of this year with an 80.03%, which is barely above the 80% border. And the final class that ends off each of my 7th grade school days is ICT Support 7, which is a very special class for a plethora of reasons. First of all, the teacher in my 7th grade ICT Support class might actually be my favorite teacher of all time. He literally gave me a nickname of Bobby Doritos because I wore a blue Cool Ranch Doritos shirt to the school, which is already a pretty funny name by itself. But during a Kahoot game me and my classmates played for fun, I wanted Bobby Doritos to be my Kahoot nickname, but to no avail, that name exceeds the character limit. So I shortened the last name from Doritos to Doritz, and ever since then, he has never stopped calling me Bobby Doritz. In fact, that name was so ridiculous that Bobby Doritz 101 used to be my Snapchat username. He even took it a step further to print out a picture of my yearbook picture for 7th grade, and proceeds to tape it above the smartboard, the exact same way my original icon for my YouTube channel was put on the smartboard. Man, this guy is so funny, but that's not all what he did. Since I promoted my YouTube channel a lot during the pandemic, he proceeds to present my YouTube videos to the classmates. And one of those videos ended up being Larry's YouTube channel.
Larry, 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 Larry.
And there was another crazy thing he did. I had serious beef with one of the students in the class whose name is Gabriel, but I'm just gonna call him Gabe because Gabe plays games. The main problem I had with Gabe is that he was rushing to class a lot, which I don't really know why I had such a big problem with that. And since I let off a whole rivalry with him, the teacher wanted to set up this running race between me and Gabe for the final day of school. And he even let the rest of the classmates vote to see who would win the race. Some people voted for me, and some people voted for Gabe. But the voting doesn't really matter because I won the running race. And I definitely humiliated Gabe a lot because ever since then, he has started vaping a lot, which definitely is not good for your health. And besides, all we did in ICT support was just making journals and also tried making up missing work, which I wasn't able to do on some of them because some of the work was really too hard for me and that I wasn't at that level yet. So that was pretty much all of my thoughts on the classes. They were all pretty decent, but the students definitely weren't. Yeah, without any hesitation, the students are not enjoyable this year. This was the year where the students started to reach their downfall. And some of my favorite friends from 6th grade ended up being virtual for 7th grade, which could kind of explain why I didn't like the students so much in 7th grade. But at least my online career was a very nostalgic journey, even though some moments were kind of rough. Like for an example, the Cars Fan 24 and the Cars community drama were absolutely rough, and that the Cars community will remain the most toxic community of all time. I definitely got into more petty drama related arguments, but the Cars Fan 24 one was the most memorable and infamous. I also made a lot of plush videos with Super Junior DJ 317, who now goes by Derpy Small. And almost every single time when I visit DJ, his dog, named Rousey, is like super excited to see me and my family.
Look where. Holy crap! Holy crap, Rousey! Look at Rousey! Oh. Rousey! Jeez! Rousey! Holy crap!
Nikki!
And also during my online career, I made a lot of silly edits like these.
Shut your mouth! Fuck your mouth! Shut the fuck up, you fuck bitch! You suck, 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 suck.
Suck, 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 suck!
That race was fixed for ratings. You know I can beat you anytime like...
Why don't you go eat a cracker, you parrot nose crack? Get the big nose out of there, Junior! Never! You made the mess now, come and clean it up now! Never, I'm home! Get out, Junior! Don't allow, get your butt out of here! Get out, Junior! Never! You know what, I'm gonna come in the...
And also the summer of 2021 was pretty fun as well. I went to a lot of summer activities with my church. I went to Florida for 4th of July. I made my YouTube Marble series, which was interesting. And 2021 was the first year where I got to go to EternalCon, which is a sci-fi convention located in my home state of New York. And unlike 6th grade and 9th grade, I actually got a yearbook in 7th grade, surprisingly. And this is the pandemic year we're talking about. But other than that, really, there is no extracurricular activities, including any field trips, and that actually makes sense because, well, this is the pandemic year. And quarantine is what bores a year down. Woo! I did not expect to have that much to say about 7th grade. Overall, 7th grade is a pretty decent year, but it's definitely not great, and that's mainly because this year took place in the pandemic. And when you're stuck in a pandemic, you can't really do anything interesting other than wearing a mask to public places. Thankfully, my 7th grade year did not end abruptly compared to 6th grade, which made 7th grade the first middle school year to end properly. Oh well, on to the next chapter. Fourth grade has never exactly topped the charts of any school ranking I've made, and when backtracking every single memory to come out from 4th grade, it's honestly nothing really special. While yes, I moved back to the elementary school I went to for kindergarten, but that still doesn't make 4th grade any more forgettable than it already is. But there's still at least more than a dozen good things I could say about 4th grade. First of all, the subjects were pretty decent. I didn't particularly enjoy the reading portion, but the chapter book of Wonder was pretty decent, And I actually got to see the movie version of the book in theaters during a field trip sometime in 2017. But other than Wonder, the rest of the chapter books me and the class read together were kind of boring and forgettable. At least I did start becoming that math genius you all know today. And you want to know why this was the year where I started to become a math genius? Since I was still in the special education program in 4th grade and I was really good at math, I decided to learn some math in a completely different 4th grade class, since all of the math lessons in my actual class are painlessly easy. I guess I just wanted to go for the difficult lessons instead of the easy lessons. Occasionally, my 4th grade math teacher would also put on Bill Nye the Science Guy apparently. And most of the time when I leave my 4th grade math teacher's class, my behavior card goes up to blue since I still dealt with the behavior card situation. But compared to 2nd grade, the behavior chart system in 4th grade was honestly not that bad. There was one positive color which was blue, one neutral color being green, and the other 3 colors which are yellow, orange, and red being bad colors, with red being the worst. And sadly, the teacher did put my card on red, but thankfully it was only one time in December 2017. And speaking of which, my actual 4th grade teacher is decently charming. She's very kind to her students even though she's a little bit more stricter than most teachers except for my 2nd grade teacher. And she gets along with me well, which is why my card has been on blue at least 50 times. Oh yeah, and my 4th grade math teacher, she's really likable too. But what I didn't like in 4th grade was the students. Specifically my classmates, because oh my god, they are so freaking annoying. While I did have 2 girl classmates out of the 14 classmates in my class, the 2 girl classmates weren't even that charming. One of them was literally absent all the time, and the other one kept on shutting me up when I wanted to say something important. Thankfully, me and the 2nd girl who tried shutting me up are on good terms now. But still, she wasn't likable, and the majority of the classmates weren't that likable. But I thankfully did make new friends in my class, one of them literally wearing the same exact shoes as me, while the other one was literally in my Super Smasher Pass Bros video. It was Logan, by the way.
What? Mario again? Smash! Hey, you know he's a doctor, so he gets the rewards, though. Hey, he's got a bigger hole if he's No.
Yeah, he's the freaking hilarious one who wanted to smash all of the male Smash Bros characters. I did make other friends in my 4th grade class, but those 2 were the most notable ones. And I even made friends with some of the 4th graders from different 4th grade classes, but it was very awkward to communicate with some of them. One of them literally thought I said I was going to marry her. And she literally remembered that incident 5 years later in 9th grade, when I didn't even say shit like that. Well, yes, I was very, very flirty with a lot of girls back in 4th grade. But come on, I can't help myself, I have always been the straight one. I even wanted to date one of them in 4th grade, which was weird, because I was overly way too young to have a girlfriend, so it makes sense that she rejected me. My behavior in 4th grade definitely needs an improvement overall, but honestly, my behavior in 4th grade was halfway decent. I was good in some circumstances, but I definitely was an idiot in some of them as well. An example of me being an idiot is bringing my Cars to school, since, well, I was a huge fan of the Cars franchise. And I was an even bigger idiot by letting one of my classmates have my Cars for a day. And he wouldn't even give me back those Cars after a couple of months. Which goes to show that some of my classmates can be absolutely despicable. I don't think Francesco Bernoulli deserved any of this. However, outside of my 4th grade class, I actually did quite a lot. I had 2 Pennsylvanian vacations, one of them was at Camelback, while the other one was at Kalahari Water Resort. I went to New York City for the final time in December of 2017, with the other 2 times being in kindergarten and in 3rd grade. And despite the summer of 2018 having its good moments, it was a little bit rough. And that's mainly because I got very competitive at bowling with my brother, but other than that, the rest of the summer was pretty good. And that is pretty much all I could say about 4th grade. 4th grade is the elementary year I have the least to say, but I still prefer it over kindergarten and 2nd grade because at least there were more good moments, which gives 4th grade the overall conclusion of being a decent year. It's just not a school year I consider to be very memorable. That's all. We're officially now halfway through the list, and I feel like there would be one school year that remains very consistent in the last decade. Well, it's about time I get to talk about 1st grade again. Between the years of 2nd grade and my senior year, I have always considered 1st grade to be a good year, but never really one of my favorites. And right after I graduated high school, I still consider 1st grade to be pretty good, but still has its issues. And since this is a good year overall, I want to go over the positives first. For once, I actually really liked my classmates this time. And it's not only because they're really nice, but it's because of the extreme gender diversity. This is the only elementary year where the classmates' genders are completely balanced, with 6 of them, including me, being male, and 6 of them being female. Which was like that at the beginning of the year, but closer to the ending of 1st grade, there were slightly more males than females. Which is still a better set of classmates than pretty much every single elementary year. Because of how nice the students are in my 1st grade class, I didn't really get bullied that much. Except a little bit in my small bus, and that's all thanks to another 1st grader named Nicholas. Now, this isn't exactly who Nicholas looks like, but let's just say he did have glasses and he was pretty annoying. Thankfully, he wasn't in my 1st grade class, but if he was, he would probably ruin 1st grade a lot. And don't get me started on what he did back in 6th grade, because oh, I'm gonna get to that soon. Yeah, for the most part, my classmates are surprisingly really likable. And there's simply just way more girls in my 1st grade class than in kindergarten. In fact, there are more classmates in my 1st grade class than in my kindergarten class. This is literally the easiest comparison between a previous bad year and a good year. I can't really say too much things about my 1st grade teacher, but all I gotta say is that she was a good teacher. She was consistently likable towards the 1st grade kids. And she was pretty nice towards me, along with the assistant teachers. There's nothing more I really need to say about my 1st grade teacher. Anyways, what are the problems I have with 1st grade? Just like with 4th grade, 1st grade is also really unmemorable. While yes, I do remember some portions about 1st grade, mainly due to my childhood videos, but I barely remember anything about 1st grade other than the super important stuff like the students and the teachers. And also, 1st grade was the first school year to have the behavior chart system. And we started off this system with using color cards, which isn't really that bad, but comparing to 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, the behavior chart system in 1st grade is easily the worst. Now, it isn't because I got in trouble so many times. In fact, I didn't even get in trouble in 1st grade that much comparing to 2nd grade. But the reason why the 1st grade behavior chart system is so bad is mainly because of the system itself. There were literally only 4 color cards in this entire behavior chart system, which were green, yellow, blue, and red. Which doesn't really sound all that bad until realizing that only one of those cards is a good color, which is green, and green remains a neutral color in most behavior charts. How is blue a bad color? Blue is literally my favorite color of all time. So placing that as the 2nd worst card in 1st grade is kind of insulting to me. Okay, it wasn't really that insulting for me in 1st grade because blue wasn't my favorite color in 1st grade. It was pink. But still though, the behavior chart thing originated from 1st grade, and I have bound to mostly dislike it ever since. I'm gonna be honest, those are all the positives and negatives I could really list about 1st grade, because honestly, this is one of the most forgettable school years right behind 4th grade and preschool. The extracurricular activities were pretty fun though. I had a pretty decent amount of field trips, and I even attended my very first spelling bee in first grade, which was pretty fun even though I was the second student to be eliminated after spelling season wrong.
Your word is season. S-E-S-O-N. Oh no.
That was a good try.
But do you know who did win the spelling bee? The girl right next to me. And also, fun fact on the spelling test before the spelling bee. Even though I did get the highest grade in my spelling test, I legit mistaken the word ship for the word shit. And I actually wrote that word on the spelling test.
Holy fucking shit, this guy's retarded.
So even though I made an absolutely ridiculous mistake on my spelling test, my behavior in first grade is decent, and the school days are kind of a mixed bag. And that's mainly because of the stupid behavior charts grading my behavior. But thankfully, I did quite a lot outside of school in first grade. I went to the beach a lot in the 2015 era, specifically this summer. And I have accomplished a lot of really cool tasks, like being able to boogie board for the very first time in July of 2015. And because of how frequent I went to the beach in 2015, I made friends with some kids about my age, which was pretty fun. And I feel like the summer of 2015 was one of the best summers without a vacation. It especially gets crazy when my own brother was on the news. In a positive way, though.
I'm doing really good riding this bike by myself.
Very good. So did you just learn this summer?
Yep, last summer I learned how to ride a bike without any training wheels at all.
Oh, all right. So, now you can go on errands and run around your neighborhood.
Yep.
And that's pretty much everything I gotta say about first grade. I liked first grade overall, but I definitely wouldn't place it anywhere in the top 5 because of how unmemorable it is. But still, I had a great set of classmates, I had a good teacher, my behavior was decent, and this school year was a great introduction to my second elementary school that I went to, since I was in a different elementary school in kindergarten. And without any hesitation, first grade is a major improvement over kindergarten. I also binged the game Fruit Ninja at this time too. For the third time in a row, the next entry is an elementary school year. So that means my second favorite elementary school year of all time is third grade. Honestly, between fourth grade and my senior year, my opinions on third grade have kind of flipped back and forth depending on the good memories. And as of me recording this video, I still believe third grade is a very good elementary year. But once again, just like with fourth grade and first grade, there are some setbacks to third grade that prove that third grade is not a perfect year. But let's go over the positives first, shall we? Instead of my classmates being consistently likable, the one main redeeming quality of third grade is my teacher. He is so nice and is just a fun teacher to hang out with. He's not as strict as my second grade teacher, which I absolutely love. And he is the only elementary teacher of my entire elementary school life that is male. And no, I'm not being sexist or anything. I just think it's a pleasure to have a male teacher for the entirety of the school year, since teachers are majority female. He did so much with me and the classmates, but sadly, he did get fired. And the main reason he got fired was because he had too much off days, which is absolutely nothing compared to how garbage my second grade teacher is. She literally got me in trouble for no reason. It's honestly a relief that my third grade teacher was fired after my third grade school year, which is still honestly very mean for this poor guy. Just give him some respect. He's not quite the best teacher of all time, but he is my favorite elementary school teacher. But do you want to know what I didn't like about third grade? The classmates. Like with most of my elementary school years, the classmates are unlikable. There's just a lot of annoying assholes who just love to bully me for literally no reason. And whenever they're pissed off about something, they sometimes flip their own desks.
So
I'm not doing that homework, teacher! You can eat my butt!
However, I don't really believe all of the students in 3rd grade are unlikable. It's mainly just my classmates. I actually liked being around some of the other 3rd graders in completely different classes because, well, those are the normal kids and I'm in the special education program. And while 3rd grade's behavior chart system only contains 4 cards, the system is a little bit more normal by replacing blue with the color purple. And the purple card in this behavior chart is a positive color, while green is a neutral color and yellow and red are the negative colors. And even though I like 3rd grade more than 1st grade, I've gotten my card on red a little bit more than in 1st grade. But like I've gotten my card on purple at least 60 more times than in 1st grade. Anyways, there's not really a lot to say about the school portion of 3rd grade, as it's mainly just a regular school year overall. But what mainly adds 3rd grade up to number 7 on the list is because of the out-of-school activities. I had plenty of field trips, including the aquarium field trip from 2017, in which I actually went to that exact same aquarium 7 years later in 10th grade. And also, just like in 1st grade, I attended my annual spelling bee of 2017, which ended off giving a much better result than in my 1st grade spelling bee. And that's because I wasn't eliminated almost immediately. But sadly, I didn't win the spelling bee and got 2nd place because I spelled the word poinsettia incorrectly. But I'm gonna be honest, I would have been eliminated a little bit earlier if they didn't give me a 2nd chance because I didn't know how to spell the word attorney. And that's because before the spelling bee, I've never heard of the word attorney before in my life. Okay, I may have heard the word attorney in Cars 1, but I just didn't know how to spell it. On Tuesdays and Thursdays after I get out of school, me and my brother attended theater class, since I wanted to give it a shot after being in the Aladdin play back in 2016. Me and my brother were quite literally the only male students there. And in my 3rd grade era, I was involved in 2 plays, Mickey's Christmas Carol from Christmas 2016 and the Peter Pan play from Spring 2017. And this was also the first year where I went to Kalahari Water Resorts located in Pennsylvania. And Super Junior DJ 317 actually came with me before we became best friends in 2020. And this was also the first year where my Halloween costume was a cardboard car, which was Lightning McQueen himself. And do you want to know what's even crazier? I quite literally brought the Lightning McQueen costume with me to the school. But I never did that again with Rose Cerule in 4th grade and Nigel Gearsley in 5th grade. Oh, and there's one more thing I gotta say about 3rd grade before I conclude this chapter. In May of 2017, I heard an explosion sometime at around 5 p.m. And it was only a couple of hours later when I started to notice the campfire scent. So I started to look outside and I could see a little flash of fire. And it turns out that one of the dead trees in my backyard is completely engulfed in flames. So as a trio, me, my mother, and father used a water hose to take out the fire and eventually was successful. Like seriously, if it wasn't for my sniffing tactics, my whole house could have literally been on fire and I would have had to live somewhere else. I mean, that isn't really too shocking coming from my 3rd grade self because, you know, my behavior in 3rd grade was actually pretty good. And that's pretty much everything I gotta say about 3rd grade. It's an overall very good school year, especially coming from the elementary school era since, you know, I don't really like my elementary era that much. But I had a great teacher, the students were kind of mid, the spelling bee was better than 1st grade spelling bee, and the vibes I get from 3rd grade is mostly positivity. And also, I kept raging over missing the shot in basketball, which was pretty annoying, but it's definitely not as annoying as my kindergarten self. Now with 3 elementary school years out of the way, I want to talk about a more recent year. And yes, I don't believe 11th grade is my favorite high school year anymore. Even though it was a pretty close call between the 2 main high school years that I liked, 11th grade feels a little more stale, and I have definitely overrated this school year a little bit, calling it better than amazing school years like pre-K and 10th grade. Don't worry, I still really like 11th grade, and there's definitely a handful of positives I could say about this school year. First of all, the classes are amazing. I had tons of hands-on classes, and the first hands-on class I have every first period would be Intro to Marine Motorsports. Marine Motorsports is one of my favorite classes of the year, and for so many reasons. Over half of the year is disassembling and then assembling a boat engine. And after I finish reassembling the kit boat engine, the Marine Motorsports teacher puts it to the test to see if the engine could actually run. And it did, but not like everyone else's.
Good. Oh, they fell off. Yep, they hit the button.
After we finished putting the boat engines together, there was a fun end of the school year project where we made pontoon boats out of styrofoam and popsicle sticks. And get this, my pontoon boat actually won the race. I could go on and on about how much I love Marine Motorsports, but I feel like those 2 events were like the 2 main redeeming qualities about that class. Which is why the grade in Marine Motorsports remains extremely high with a 96%. The second period class I have on odd days is ICT support, which is a study hall class I don't really care for too much. And that's mainly because there's not a lot of students in that class and all of them are very quiet. It's just a whatever class overall. Besides, my second period class for even days is a little bit more interesting. And that class would be physical education. Comparing to 10th grade physical education, 11th grade physical education is kind of nerfed. And the main reason why I consider 11th grade physical education to be nerfed is because of the quality of the sports decreasing. I wasn't able to walk on the track compared to my 10th grade year, which forced me to play sports like football, which I never really liked. And volleyball was kind of annoying because my teammates suck at volleyball. And most of the time they won't let me serve the ball, which is extremely annoying, and I rage quitted a lot thanks to this sport. And even badminton was pretty frustrating too, and this is my favorite sport we're talking about. For some reason in this physical education class specifically, there are a lot more students in this physical education class compared to my previous 2 high school years being 9th grade and 10th grade. And when there's a lot of classmates, there is not enough room to fill in the badminton courts. And every time when me and my badminton partner lose a game, we are forced to wait in line until a badminton court is open for us. And sometimes we are forced to wait in line for up to 10 minutes, which kind of defeats the purpose of physical education, since this is supposed to be an active class. It's not a class where you wait in line just to do more exercise, which is really stupid. Floor hockey was kind of average. I didn't really attend physical education for floor hockey that much because I had a lot of vacations in April. And when we went back outside in May 2025, the physical education experience started to get better after me and my friends were playing frisbee. Aside from making a lot of new friends in my 11th grade physical education class, there is virtually nothing about my 11th grade physical education class that makes it better than my 10th grade physical education class. But I still consider physical education for 11th grade to be pretty decent overall. Anyways, my third period class for quarters 1 and 2 would be lunch, which is a lunch period I don't really have too much passionate feelings toward, but the group of friends I hang out with makes this lunch period pretty alright. Unfortunately, some of the students that were sitting at my table were devil worshippers. Like seriously, why the f*** do you worship Satan? You are like actually a freak if you worship this bad man. My third period class for quarters 3 and 4 would be environmental science. I was super worried about this class at first because the name environmental science sounds way too similar to living environment. But I ended up getting the shock of my life to realize that environmental science is actually a pretty good science class. I learned about a lot of really cool environmental related topics, such as different types of species, and what the world would turn into if it was so heavily polluted. I mean, take Bangladesh for an example, as it's literally the most polluted country in the world. I do love how the classmates are majority female, but it also comes with a problem. There's two girls that sit right behind me and they love to laugh whenever they start a conversation, and they're really annoying. Thankfully, the rest of the classmates were likable. It kind of makes sense that phones are completely banned in this class, but it doesn't really make sense that there's a lot of online work in this class. This ended up being my very last ever science class, as I didn't take any science courses in 12th grade. The overall grade for environmental science is 94.71%. My fourth period class in quarters 1 and 2 would be marine science, which is my least favorite class of 11th grade. I actually was originally going to take marine science for 10th grade after astronomy, until realizing that I couldn't have both of those classes at the same time, so I decided to take marine science for 11th grade, and boy, it was not great. The teacher often loves to share videos and having us to answer questions from the videos. Watching videos is definitely not for everyone, especially for a generation that has a low attention span. Watching the videos is an extreme waste of time and often forces me to rush through work, when all of the lessons could have been something interesting. And also, the students were not likable when they didn't want to partner with me during labs. I think that's pretty much everything I gotta say about marine science. It's not that great, but at least I had a pretty high average grade of 88%, which is actually the lowest grade in 11th grade. My fourth period class for quarters 3 and 4 would be lunch again. But this time I'm at a table with two true friends, being Random Box Gaming and a guy that looks like Jesse Pinkman. I'm gonna get into the Jesse Pinkman part pretty soon. So basically we were all just hanging out like bros, and Random Box Gaming was one of the 3 people to actually collab with me in my 11th grade analysis video. But sadly, he did delete his channel for unknown reasons. My fifth period class would be English 11, which ended up being a very shockingly good class, since the last good English class that I've taken was in 6th grade. The first part of the class was just practicing for the English Regents by doing a ton of essays, which actually benefited me a lot, and I ended up acing my English Regents with an 86%. I had mixed feelings on the chapter books me and my class read. Like, I had a lot of good stuff to say about Hamlet since it was a William Shakespeare book, but I ended up disliking The Great Gatsby because of its miserable plot and how garbage the characterization is. The teachers also put on a movie called The Perfect Storm, which was a great movie, and I would consider that movie to be better than both Hamlet and The Great Gatsby. There's nothing really more I need to say about English. English 11 is a very good class, I made new friends in that class, and the chapter books I read were pretty mixed. Giving English 11 an average grade of 93.18%, which is one of the highest grades ever in an English class. The class I have for 6th period would be US History and Government. US History and Government is one of the most forgettable classes of all time. Social studies by itself is not a subject I am very interested in, and when talking about US history and government, the only thing worth mentioning about this class is the students, since the lessons in US history and government are virtually the same as global history, except we're just talking about USA and not other countries. The students were okay, I suppose. I mean, I did have a group of friends who were sitting around me, but then there was another group of friends right next to us that were pretty annoying and will not stop talking. However, just like with most classes in 11th grade, the grade for US history and government is higher than a 90, with a 90.6%. The next class I have for 7th period would be business math. Business math is an amazing math course, but I wouldn't go as far as to say it is my favorite math course of all time, because that title belongs to statistics for 10th grade. And I think the main reason why business math is not my favorite math course is because some of the word problems can be very challenging due to how wordy they are. But still, the teacher is super nice, the students are very quiet, and most of the work is a cakewalk, which is why my average grade for business math is one of the highest average grades of all time, with an overall percentage of 99.14%, a percentage somehow higher than statistics. And my final class to end off each of my 11th grade school days is computer animation. I'm still debating if computer animation is still my favorite class of all time. And even if it isn't, computer animation is still my favorite class of 11th grade. It's just really satisfying designing and animating on an application called 3ds Studio Max, which I find that to be really fun. I designed my own house, I designed 2 cars, with both of them being Ford Mustangs. And besides the animated models, the animations themselves are really cool. And the first really good animation I made was a 20th Century Fox animation. But I added a really funny twist to it. I also made the Pixar intro, and I also added a really funny twist to it too. And the last project I did in computer animation was a simulation where marbles are circling around a funnel, which I found to be one of the coolest projects in my opinion. Overall, while computer animation is not the best 11th grade class academically, it is still my favorite class overall, with an average grade of 98.12%. Yeah, those were my thoughts on all of the classes. A lot of them were pretty great, surprisingly. Anyways, what were my thoughts on the students? I definitely tolerated them more than other years, but that doesn't mean that they're likable this year. Oh no, they are still unlikable. But the main reason I tolerated the students a lot more is that I made a lot of new friends. I previously mentioned that I made new friends in gym, but I also made a new counseling friend who goes by the name Jupiter, who was one of the 3 people that actually came to my 17th birthday celebration, with the other 2 guests being Michael and Stephen K. But aside from making new friends, the couples problem was still a major issue in school. But at least I watched the quintessential quintuplets, which temporarily stopped my hatred on couples. I was assigned in 2 clubs this year, but I didn't really attend them that much. They were the book club and the gaming club. Anyways, outside of the school, I actually did quite a lot in 11th grade. I watched tons of different anime. I previously mentioned the quintessential quintuplets, but I also watched anime like Demon Slayer, Lucky Star, Agretsuko, The Disastrous Life of Psyche K, Jujutsu Kaisen, and Death Note, just to name a few. I also made a lot of video projects, such as the Super Smash Bros. Character ranking from worst to best, in which took me 6 months to make, from late February all up until late July. Which actually makes sense when you think about it, because that video is 3.5 hours long. And also, I went to a lot of really cool vacations explained in my 11th grade analysis video, and occasionally here and there, I get Riz. And this was also the first year where I got a real job, since working at the pizza place a couple of years ago in 9th grade didn't really count as a real job since my mom works there too. I work at a bagel store called Bagels and Brunch, which is about 20 minutes from where I live. And I work at Bagels and Brunch almost every Sunday since, well, I have school. And the place usually closes at around 3 o'clock, so I don't really have much of a long shift. And do you guys remember the Jesse Pinkman lookalike I talked about in my 4th period lunch class? Well, I went to his graduation party since the Jesse Pinkman lookalike was a senior from 2024 to 2025. That'll probably be the only graduation party I'll ever attend because I have a graduation party for myself for 12th grade. And also, me, Michael, and Logan hung out just a little too much.
Good boy. Good boy, Michael.
Catching it lacking. Shit going at tragic and emphatic.
And even though my online career in 11th grade was an improvement over 10th grade, I was still involved in lots of drama that I don't really want to get into. And this was also the first year where I started to download a lot of Instagram reels. And trust me, they're all pretty funny.
It's your turn. Look at his utility bills. Oh my god. He's fat man. Oh no. Oh my god, look. Oh my god. He said kablam.
I mean, the other redeeming quality of Valentine's Day 2025 was going to a cat cafe and petting all of the cats. And that's pretty much everything I could say about my 11th grade school year. I definitely liked it, and it's the best school year to not have a field trip, and contains some of the best classes of all time. Watching anime was also another main redeeming quality about 11th grade, and I had so much extracurricular and out-of-school activities this year. However, the students were not likable, and I did not have a single field trip in this school year. It's a good thing this school year brought to me a lot of really good memories. Well, we're officially now in the top 5 best school years of all time. And my 5th favorite school year happens to be my favorite school year from my high school era. And do you want to know what it is? It's 10th grade, aka my sophomore year of high school. This was a weird school year because it felt a lot like 8th grade. In the same sense, because in comparison, both 8th grade and 10th grade are better than what I originally thought. But a way to mark the difference between 8th grade and 10th grade is that I originally did not like 8th grade, but for 10th grade, I initially called this school year good, but not great. Nowadays, I think 10th grade is a great year overall. Sure, it may have more problems than in 11th grade, but that still doesn't make it any worse than 11th grade. First, I want to go over the classes of 10th grade, and even though the classes in 10th grade are pretty good, the school day sadly starts with one of my least favorite classes of all time, which is Spanish 3 Honors.
Flojo conche tu madre hasta cuando vaya a hacer algo productivo.
Cállate vieja culia, muérete.
Oh my god. This class absolutely f***ing sucks. Seriously, I despise this class so much. From its incredibly boring worksheets to the teacher literally accusing me of using Google Translate, this class literally does nothing that improves from Spanish 2 Honors, except for the students being a little more tolerable in the class. Just, what do you even want me to say at this point? The teacher sucks so bad, she literally doesn't give a shit about me at all, and didn't even allow me to do a scavenger hunt when literally every other classmate was doing it. And it was not just the scavenger hunt that I missed on, but the teacher also accused me of cheating on a Spanish project. So basically, for this Spanish project, it is a presentation in Spanish about what your life basically is. And only just 5 minutes after the presentation, the teacher called me up and said that I used Google Translate. Yeah, okay, I used Google Translate for this Spanish project. But what if some other people were using Google Translate? Why did you only call me down and accuse me of using Google Translate? You freaking moron. And there was one last moment in Spanish 3 Honors that literally got me lunch detention. In April 2024, when I was about to leave the class a little too early, the teacher yells at me, "Go back to your seat," and I literally yelled back at her, which made the lousy teacher really angry and gave me detention. Oh, and I also had to write an apology letter to her. Seriously, what did I ever do to her? I was literally defending myself. Just fuck this class, seriously. If I never would have dropped out of design and drawing, Spanish 3 honors would have been my least favorite class of all time. I literally wanted to drop out of that class so badly, but I just couldn't. And I was warned by a couple of 10th graders back in 9th grade that Spanish 3 honors would be a lot harder than Spanish 2 honors. And I should have taken that statement seriously because Spanish 3 honors is my paralysis demon. I hate this class so much. In fact, I hate it so much that my average grade for Spanish 3 honors is literally the minimal passing grade of 65%. Yeah, that's how much I despise Spanish 3 honors. For my second period class, I have English 10, which isn't quite as bad as Spanish 3 honors, but it is pretty boring. I do think some of the lessons are pretty okay, but my main complaint with 10th grade English is the chapter books, in which I am pretty mixed over. The first chapter book that I read in English 10 would be The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, which was a story about a Native American living in a tribe in Spokane, Washington, and wanted to move to a much richer high school. The book did start off boring, but then it quickly picked up around halfway through the book, and then it became a really good book. It did have one absolutely offensive joke in the book, but for the most part, The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian is a great book. And the second chapter book I read was To Kill a Mockingbird, which is a book I've definitely been pretty harsh on, and the book actually did get better after chapter 10. But don't get me wrong, To Kill a Mockingbird is not a great book and features so much racist jokes that I can't even count how many times this book has the N-word in it. It's still a better book than The Great Gatsby because at least this book is interesting. But still though, To Kill a Mockingbird is not a great book. And English 10 in general is not really a great class either. But it does give itself a high average grade of 85.45%. My third period class for quarters 1 and 2 would be astronomy, which is in my opinion my favorite science course. It is so satisfying learning about stars and their constellations, and I even loved learning about the zodiac signs. You know things are already looking great for astronomy, but what truly makes astronomy an amazing class was because I had a field trip for this class. And it was a really good one too, where I went inside a planetarium which was insanely fun. And I was also inside the Vanderbilt Museum, which I probably had the same amount of fun there. I loved the planetarium so much that I quite literally went there 2 more times, both of them being in 2024. Man, I love this class so much, and it's really a shame that it's a half-year course. But still though, I really love this class, and this is probably the only science course that I actually really loved, giving itself an average grade of 88.24%. The third period class I have for quarters 3 and 4 would be meteorology. Now, meteorology does take place in the exact same classroom as astronomy, but I just think meteorology is less interesting than astronomy. While yes, I do think learning about the weather and how it functions is pretty interesting, but just not as interesting as astronomy. The only problem I have with meteorology is that some of the lessons can be really hard, especially learning about the weather fronts. At least I did have a group of friends in meteorology, but I just think meteorology is a regular good class, giving itself an average grade of 88.03%, 0.21% below astronomy. On odd days for 4th period, I have ICT support, which is the first main study hall class I've had since 8th grade. Yeah, I didn't have an ICT class for 9th grade. That goes to show that my freshman year is absolutely deplorable. The ICT class takes place literally in my Global History 2 class, which I'll go over very soon. Anyways, my 4th period class for even days would be physical education. For 10th grade physical education, I actually really liked it. I didn't even have to play football this time as I was mainly just walking around the track when I had to go outside. And I was listening to some artists like Uli John Roth, and this was before I started getting really invested into Dream Theater in 11th grade. Eventually, when it started to get really cold, me and the classmates were playing volleyball. And I feel like volleyball for 10th grade is where volleyball was at its peak. Now, I won't exactly go as far as to say that volleyball in 10th grade was really good, but it had its plethora of good moments where I was actually really good at volleyball, which actually helped my volleyball team actually win the volleyball tournament. Oh, and the name for my volleyball team? It's Lightning All-Star Avengers. So after me and my classmates played volleyball, I played badminton, which I find to be a really fun sport in 10th grade. And occasionally after some badminton matches, I am occasionally complimented for my badminton skills. Which definitely made me prideful back then, but nowadays if people compliment me for my skills, I'm just not gonna care. Floor hockey was okay, and eventually when we went back outside, I just did my usual routine of walking on the track once again. Anyways, so my 5th period class would be studio and art. I was definitely worried for this class at first because I thought it would end off exactly like design and drawing, but proving me wrong, studio and art is actually a very good class. And since this is an art-related course, there aren't really any tests. They're mainly just projects. And in about 3 seconds, I'm gonna share with you all what the projects in studio and art are like. These were all of the 7 projects I've done in 10th grade studio and art. So let's backtrack. So this is the latest project where I just put in different characters and put them in different colored backgrounds using paint, like watercolors. And I wasn't really doing that great with the watercolor stuff because paint and cultics don't go well together, basically. And then here's one of my first projects where I just took a picture of a bunch of 3D shapes, and I tried drawing all of it, and it turned out pretty well. Right over here is my self-portrait, and you probably saw that in the trailer for my 10th grade analysis video. It looks pretty cool, right? And then there's a drawing of the Golden Gate Bridge. Put it in cursive because, you know, you need it to be very fancy because it's the Golden Gate Bridge. And I did okay with it, but I definitely need work with it. This one was probably the worst one. It was probably my first one too. So basically, I had to use water, like I had to paint this whole project, which doesn't really work well because paint and paper don't go well together. This one was the negative colors one, where I just had to, one side being one color and one side being the negative colors. That's basically what the entire project was. And this final project, I actually don't know what this is, but this has been one of my hardest working projects to date. And that's pretty much every project I have in studio and art. And also, studio and art was the class where I photographed a Splatoon drawing. Since, well, I was a huge fan of the Splatoon franchise in the 2023 era, with my username being Lagosto throughout almost my entire sophomore year. Overall, studio and art is a great class, but it has its problem with the wasps trying to get in. And there was actually one day in particular where there were 8 wasps inside the classroom. 8 flying demons. But studio and art does get a really good grade of 83.52%, an average grade in 10th grade standards. The next class I have for period 6 would be Global History 2, which is basically the same as Global History 1, except a little bit better because the teachers and the students are a little nicer. The lessons are okay, as we're mainly just going over notes and not really doing much work. But there is actually one clip from Queso that made me think of this class for some reason. Overall, while Global History doesn't exactly remain one of my favorite classes of 10th grade, it's still an alright class, giving itself an average grade of 85.8%. The next class I have for 7th period would be lunch. And I actually have some stuff to say about lunch. First of all, the students were terrible. Even though Logan was in that same exact lunch period with me, the other students in the background will not stop screaming. Like, I literally hear them scream every day, and sometimes I hear, "Shut the fuck up!" And in several occasions when this happens, me and Logan leave the lunch period early because of how damn obnoxious the students are. But my lunch period did come with great perks like these hilarious clips.
You do again.
Today we're talking about Elijah.
Alright, that's all I could really send about lunch because honestly, it was pretty much chaotic. There was another group of friends behind me that wanted to play blackjack with me because sometimes I bring solitaire cards with me. But other than that really, the student environment in my lunch period for 10th grade is just garbage. And the final class that ends off each of my 10th grade school days would be statistics. Yeah, without any hesitation, statistics is my favorite class for 10th grade. And it's not just because it is a huge improvement over geometry for 9th grade, but it's because statistics is my favorite math course of all time. The lessons are an actual cakewalk, and this class remains one of my comfort classes for 10th grade. The teacher and the students were all really nice to me, and during the last day of school, the students were honoring me because of how smart I was in that statistics class. That's pretty much all I could say about statistics because pretty much my whole experience in statistics has been positive, with the class having an extremely high average grade of 98.59%. Yeah, it doesn't have a 100% average anymore. And that's pretty much my thoughts on all of the classes, most of them being really good. But the students were really unlikable, and I actually have a whole explanation as to why I really despised the students in 10th grade in my 10th grade analysis video. So anyways, what were my extracurricular activities like? I actually didn't really do a lot of extracurricular activities, but I did go to one club. And that one club would be the art club, because my friend goes there. I didn't really go to the art club all that much, but it certainly is way more than 9th grade, where I didn't have any extracurricular activities at all. So anyways, what activities have I done outside of school? In late September of 2023, I binge-watched my very first anime, which ended up being Nekopara Cat's Paradise. And I liked it so much that I quite literally made a YouTube poop out of Nekopara in December of the same year. I actually want to share you some clips of this YouTube poop because it's honestly that good.
It sucks.
What the fuck are you looking at?
Wow, wow. Last call.
Oh no, oh no!
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I guess I have no choice. These are desperate times. Don't be nuts, Nuts! Yeah, don't open that! Why is this road so curvy? Oh, come on. It's past time you grew up and got used to this sort of... Hold on. Is this your house?
How may I serve you, my masters?
I wish more! The heck is wrong with you? How can you say something so
Try and have a little decency.
But that wasn't even me!
Way, why exactly does this matter so much?
It's obvious!
I don't even know.
What are you doing in my swamp? What are you doing in my swamp? Turn it up!
And it was not just an anime I binge-watched, but I binge-watched literally every single Pixar movie in just 1 month. Yes, this includes the Pixar movies that I quite literally have never seen until this marathon, which were A Bug's Life, Soul, and Lightyear. Here's my official ranking of all the Pixar movies ranked from worst to best. Yes, it's a little bit hard to see, but my least favorite Pixar movie during this marathon was The Good Dinosaur, and my favorite Pixar movie during this marathon was Luca. I think it's mainly just because I'm Italian. And I forgot to mention this in some of the middle and high school years. I go to church every Wednesday for youth group, and on October 11th, 2023, I met this girl who goes by the name Kira. She's an introvert just like me, so I wanted to date her since dating adorable Maggie, who also goes by the name Miley, is literally out of the question since her parents don't even want her to date. But they don't know about the Cultix YouTube channel. I guess maybe having a small YouTube channel isn't so bad. As time went on, I started to really like this Kira girl to the point where I literally asked her out on paper. Since you know, asking her out loud is literally impossible for someone like me. But of course she rejects me because she would rather be with freaking Roy Gethard. And the last time I actually got to talk with her in person was actually in August of 2024 before 11th grade started. And I was walking around a small town with her, and she actually recommended me to watch Death Note. And I watched Death Note in my 11th grade era. And ever since then, I stopped talking with her after she got a boyfriend. And you know how much I feel about girls rejecting me just for different boys. Yeah, absolutely pitiful. Go fuck yourself, Roy Gethard, for literally making me block her. Seriously, you absolutely owe me so much money for what you did to me. Anyways, 10th grade was also the first year where I went to the Valhalla Gaming Center, which is where I first played Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which ultimately led to the 3-hour video project. And this was also the first year where Isabelle, the Animal Crossing girl, became my #1 favorite Nintendo character of all time, and is still my favorite Nintendo character to this day. And even though my YouTube channel was performing very poorly in my 10th grade era, I still reviewed quite a lot like Lizzie the Rat School 15 and SMG4. And also for Halloween of 2023, I had quite literally the best costume of all time. I dressed up as the freaking Kool-Aid Man! And I also went to a lot of car shows during the summer of 2024, which was all pretty fun. And I even went to Florida for 2 weeks in July of 2024, and that is where I watched Demon Slayer with my friend Carter. And this was also the school year where there was a solar eclipse. Just wow, I cannot believe I had so much to say about my 10th grade school year. I definitely understayed its welcome originally, but as time went on, 10th grade has become my new favorite high school year of all time. From its great classes to its very vivid memories, 10th grade has overall so much great stuff going for it. It definitely would have been higher if the students were a little more tolerable, but I am pretty proud of putting 10th grade, aka my sophomore year, as my 5th favorite school year of all time. Yes, I'm officially allowed to classify myself as a femboy because that's exactly what I was in my pre-K year. If I would have remembered a lot more in my pre-K year, pre-K would have been in the top 3 or possibly even #1 on the list. But besides from this year being very forgettable since I was 4 to 5 years old at this time, there are so much amazing attributes to pre-K that put it #4 on my list today. First of all, the #1 main compliment with my pre-K year is my classmates. And similarly with my 1st grade class, the genders for each of my classmates are very balanced, with half of them being male and the other half being female. And because I looked like this during my pre-K year, I was quite literally the girl magnet, as I quite literally said in one of my childhood videos from 2013 that I had 8 girlfriends.
How many girlfriends do you have?
8.
You have 8 girlfriends? What's their names?
Lois, Brian, Chris, Dewey, Meg, Joe, Bonnie, Quagmire, Cleveland, Mort, Seamus, Adam West, Dr. Hartman, Bruce Carter, Babs, Tom Tucker, Angela, Opie, Carl, Herbert, Jillian, Consuela, Giant Chicken, Grease Top Deaf Guy.
Damn!
It was not just having 8 girlfriends that was really charming, but I also quite literally got kissed by one of them on 4th of July 2013.
Damn!
I could still have 8 girlfriends today if I wasn't so awkward, because you know, I was an extrovert back in 2013. Anyways, do you remember that picture I showed y'all? That was actually a picture of me on Valentine's Day being really happy about the day, since you know, Valentine's Day was a holiday I actually liked before 2023.
I actually have a whole box of all of the Valentine's Day cards I got in 2013. There's me, back when I was a toddler, I guess.
So I took a look on all of these Valentine's Day cards that I got out of this box, and it turns out that a lot of these are from my 8 girlfriends. In fact, out of these 13 cards, 10 of them are from girls.
Oh my god!
I really wish Valentine's Day was like that again. Instead, it's now about romance. Anyways, some of my 8 girlfriends took it a step further by putting me in a dress.
No, shit! No! No!
The students were just so charming to the point where I went to birthday party after birthday party, even hosting my own birthday party, and a lot of my classmates from my preschool class joined. And my 5th birthday party took place in this building, where I partook in swimming lessons and can officially swim to this day. Also in my 5th birthday party, I had this crown that has the number 5 on it, and I actually still have the crown to this day. And also during the graduation from preschool moment, I was using both of my hands to hit one of the school's bongos, and after adding 2 final hits, everybody cheered for me like the king I was in preschool. It's not just the students I really loved in preschool, but the teachers are also really likable too. And the stuff I did outside of school was pretty nonsensical, but it's pretty memorable. I quite literally repeated the phrase "bad luck is real" from a live-action Cartoon Network show called The Incredible Crew, which has a very low rating on IMDb, surprisingly. Which clip was the phrase from? Well...
All of my back is broken right now. Bad luck is real!
Yep, that explains. I think that's pretty much everything I could say about my pre-K year. There is a reason why 2013 is one of my favorite years. And it's all thanks to me graduating from preschool in 2013, followed by having 8 quote-unquote girlfriends, because I don't technically have a girlfriend in preschool. And let's also not forget that my 5th birthday party, which took place inside that swimming place, was literally across the street from my high school. I just wish my pre-K year was a little bit more memorable, but nonetheless, my pre-K year was pretty much just amazing. So the school year, placed at number 3 on the list, happens to be my favorite school year from my elementary era. Yep, so that means my favorite elementary school year is 5th grade. Not only is this school year the absolute best of elementary, but this is also the last elementary school year for me. It's also technically the first year for me to launch my YouTube channel, since my first YouTube video, called Wreck-It Ralph the Series, The Race, was released on June 23rd, 2019, just a couple of days before the final day of 5th grade. And the time that I actually became a huge fan of Wreck-It Ralph was actually in the beginning of my 5th grade era, in September of 2018. And this was also the first year where I actually had an extracurricular activity, where I went to a club after school called the STEM Club, which lasted from November 2018 to March 2019, which is still way longer than my wrestling tryouts in 4th grade, in which I only went to wrestling tryouts twice and then never returned again. And yes, it was true, I used to be very invested in a sport. So anyways, what were the daily aspects of 5th grade like? Well, according to my behavior chart in 5th grade, my behavior throughout 5th grade was mostly really good, as I mainly counterattacked anyone who tried forcing me to say the N-word. And my behavior pin has mostly been in the positive colors instead of the negative colors, whereas my behavior pin has not been on red one time in 5th grade. Occasionally, there were still a lot of really dumb mistakes I made in 5th grade, like locking myself out of the school or telling a girl to get pregnant, in which I had a word with 3 adults, including my own mother, and boy, that mistake was just brutal. Still though, I was a really nice and super intelligent student back in 5th grade. However, my classmates were unlikable. They often just fight over random shit, and oftentimes when they do that, I ask myself, why the fuck am I in a class like this? One of the students, named Amari, literally forced me to say the N-word. which according to him means sorry in Spanish. Let's see who's in the wrong here. Oh, what do you know? It doesn't mean sorry in Spanish. It means lo siento. And also, besides the N-word situation, Amari has been bullying me quite a lot. Even during the elementary graduation ceremony. Which could kind of explain why he inspired the Wreck-It Ralph the series character, Dr. Bully II. Some of my friends from my 4th grade class did return from my 5th grade class, but for the most part, the students were unlikable. But thankfully, the students were not all that bad. Because, just like with 4th grade, I was really good at math at this time, so I went to a different 5th grade classroom just to learn about math. And the students in my 5th grade math class were much more likable than my actual classmates. And for some reason in this school year specifically, the Latinas were around me pretty much all the time. And around 3 of them wanted me to hug someone. Yes, and it was one of those girls that made me fuck up my riz. Which is how one of my classmates literally pressured me into saying that I wanted her pregnant. Which remains one of the most insane what the hell moments from my lifetime. It's not just meeting a lot of Latina students, but my own bus driver is a Latina herself. And me and the students on that bus would often debate if cats or dogs are better. And without any hesitation, cats are infinitely better than dogs. Anyways, my 5th grade teacher may not exactly be as good as my 3rd grade teacher, but she's still really nice. And so is my 5th grade math teacher, who's a pretty cool guy. Unfortunately, some of the assistant teachers in my 5th grade class were kind of stupid. And I'm mainly talking about the one who quite literally got me locked out of the school one day. Now, of course, she didn't do it intentionally, but here's why I believe she is at fault here. So I forgot to bring my lunchbox back into the building after recess one day, and one of the assistant teachers went downstairs to the lunchroom to get my lunchbox. Since you know, my 5th grade class took place in the 2nd floor. And for some reason, when I was trying to go outside, the assistant teacher didn't even hold the door for me, as she just left me behind. So then when the door closed on me and when I finally got my lunchbox, I was locked outside from the school for a couple of minutes before someone finally let me in. That was one of the most dangerous things to ever happen to me, and I hope that assistant teacher gets fired after that incident. Like, how does this not scream child negligence? Anyways, besides from my daily components with 5th grade, I actually did quite a lot of activities in 5th grade. The extracurricular activities include my very first club, which is called the STEM Club, which also stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. Judging by those 4 words, you'll probably get what STEM Club is all about. And also, I had a lot of field trips, including the Police Academy field trip, and that one trip to Adventure Park where we were just ziplining. And this was also the only elementary year where I got a yearbook. Sure, it may not be as interesting as the yearbooks I got in my middle and high school years, but it was still really cool that I got a yearbook for the very first time, especially since I had a ton of signatures, including one from a girl that says, "I love you." I'm sorry, but what? No girl ever says that to me anymore. Especially when my generation has turned to garbage. Anyways, I just finished with the extracurricular activities portion, and I want to go to the personal changes that made 5th grade so good. I know this is going to sound really odd, but from pre-K all the way to 4th grade, I actually used to do gymnastics. But when I started my 5th grade school year, I stopped attending. And the same goes to childcare. And like what I said at the beginning of the video, in September of 2018, I started getting really interested in the Wreck-It Ralph franchise. Even though I technically started to like it a lot earlier, in February of 2018. A couple of months later, on November 21st, 2018, in which it was the Ralph Breaks the Internet release date, I watched the movie in theaters right as it came out, and I loved it more than I loved the first one. So much so that I started to write skits based on the Wreck-It Ralph movie, which would later become Wreck-It Ralph the series by June 2019. Even though this series was very unsuccessful, I did at least make a new friend on YouTube who shared the exact same interest in Wreck-It Ralph. Nowadays, he goes by the name Steve the Wise Guy 27, and I'm actually still friends with him today. I'll never forget that one moment where I was so excited that this Steve guy was commenting on my stuff. Occasionally here and there, me and my family play hide and seek, which remains a core memory, not just for the nostalgia. Yeah! And one of my 5th grade classmates actually invited me to his birthday party. Now sure, it was a Fortnite birthday party, but like Fortnite was popping extremely hard in the 2018 era. So I got to try Fortnite for the first time, and I suck at the game. But a way of paybacking this guy for inviting me to his birthday party is inviting him to my birthday party. And quite a few of my 5th grade classmates actually entered my birthday party. And one final note to point out about my 5th grade school year is that this was the first school year for me to get invested into Super Mario Logan. Since you know, I was a fan of Super Mario Logan for years, with my first Super Mario Logan video being Bowser Jr.'s biggest fear. And I think that's pretty much everything I gotta say about 5th grade. Even though I do think pre-K is a little bit better based on a nostalgic standpoint, but what made 5th grade better was a transitional standpoint, since I had a bunch of newer interests in 5th grade. And the daily habits in 5th grade managed to be a lot better than pretty much every single elementary school year. And that day where I accidentally clicked that upload video tab instantly changed my life forever, and that is why 5th grade is ranked number 3 on my list. 2019 is my favorite year of all time, and it's thanks to the presence of 5th grade. And this next school year I'm about to talk about, which will be... Honestly, for the last 2 school years I'm about to review, it was actually pretty tough to decide which of these 2 school years ended up being my favorite. And because one of them ended abruptly on March 13th, 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic, I made a realistic decision to choose 6th grade as my second favorite school year. For a very long time before 10th grade, 6th grade has comfortably been my favorite school year of all time. But because I found a similar school year with more activities to do, 6th grade is now ranked the runner-up of the list. And even though it isn't ranked first place anymore, there are so many great memories to this school year that it's unbelievable. First, I want to go over the classes, and even though this was the first middle school year for me, I honestly think this set of classes is honestly the best. And the class that this school year starts off with is English 6. Which was a very interesting class for a plethora of reasons. I know this is gonna sound like a bad thing, but almost every single day, I arrive at school pretty late because my small bus is late to school almost all of the time. And since I've gotten used to my school bus being late all the time, I honestly find this to be pretty funny now. Especially since my teacher, who is a little verbally aggressive, doesn't even care that I'm late to class all the time. And honestly, even though my English teacher can get a little crazy at times, I honestly think she's a really fun teacher. And so were the classmates, who were all consistently likable. The class had these assigned seats, and the first girl I sat next to was named Raven, and she became a goth girl about 4 years later. This wasn't fake, by the way. There was an actual girl named Raven who became a goth. But eventually, the assigned seats had to change. And my new seat was with 3 girls instead of 1 throughout the remainder of 6th grade. And even though the work for 6th grade English wasn't exactly very memorable, but an average grade of 83.91% proves that the work in English 6 was actually not too difficult. Especially since this was before English has went on a downward spiral up until 11th grade. For second period, the classes kind of switched back and forth depending on the day. My second period class on A days for first and second quarter would be Art 6, which is a simple art class I really enjoyed. The teacher often goes over these lessons about art, and honestly, they're pretty fun. I actually still have my 6th grade sketchbook even after 6 years. And even though my drawings were pretty shitty back then, I did at least learn from my mistakes, and the drawings I've made recently turn out to be a lot better. Obviously not on the same level as Salvador Dali or Leonardo da Vinci, but come on, nobody is perfect and you shouldn't judge my modern drawings. Anyways, the average grade for Art 6 is 87.85%. My second period class on A days for quarters 3 and 4 would be General Music 6, which ended up having the exact same classmates I had for Art 6. And this class was honestly pretty short-lived, since the last day of school, which was on March 13th, 2020, literally took place 1 month after quarter 3 just started. So I only took the General Music 6 class in person for about 10 days before I did it online. And even though virtual school kind of sucks, it was a blessing for General Music 6, which is why the average grade for General Music 6 is the highest average grade in 6th grade with a 95%. My second period class on B days would be Physical Education. Now, even though Physical Education doesn't necessarily count as a class, it's honestly one of the best of all time. And that's all thanks to the chaotic yet amazing set of students. What I mean by the students being amazing is that I had quite a few best friends in that class. For an example, that girl I tried to impress in my 7th period lunch class, whose name is Jasmine, and there were some other great sets of friends I've had in Physical Education for 6th grade. However, there were some pretty annoying students like Michael, who I previously mentioned in my 7th grade chapter, who was pretty annoying and kind of crazy, and was such a huge dick when he rejected my invitation for my 12th birthday party. And do you remember Nicholas from my 1st grade chapter? Well, he's back. And not in the positive way either, since he was much more annoying in 6th grade than he was in 1st grade. Which could kind of explain why he's been suspended from school so many times, to the point where virtually nobody likes him. Which could kind of explain that I didn't even know he died until 2 years later. And his death in 2020 wasn't even from natural causes. He quite literally rode his stupid dirt bike at midnight and was apparently hit by a car, at least from what one of my friends told me about that situation. So that was the story of a few friends from that class. Anyways, the activities themselves are really fun. Football was okay, floor hockey was kind of fun, playing Nitro Ball for the first time was really exciting, and the obstacle course stuff are what truly made me popular in 6th grade. And why exactly did I become a fan favorite for trying to run through the obstacle course as quickly as I can? Well, it's because Jasmine and her friends literally chanted my name entirely while I was trying to get through the obstacle course. Oh, and they didn't do it one time, they did it twice, which really proves how much I missed 6th grade. Anyways, my 3rd period class would be writing, which literally takes place in the exact same room as English 6. Except it's more about writing and debating stuff instead of reading articles. Which makes this class slightly better than English 6, but the academics for this class are a little worse. And because I struggled with this class academically in the first quarter, that's what caused me to not get an honor roll award, since the average grade to get an honor roll award is 85 or above. I honestly think the opinionated debates are pretty cool, such as the debate where we were discussing if TikTok belongs in schools or not, and I chose no, obviously, because TikTok is an addicting social media. Similar to English 6, not too many memorable things happen in writing class. But I still passed this class overall with an 80.88%. For some reason before 4th period, I take my lunchbox out of my locker and I head to my 4th period class, which would be Science 6. Now for some reason, this class has the lowest academic grade in 6th grade, and I really don't know why, because I really like this class. Now sure, the notes can be a pain in the ass to get through, and that's just because I didn't write the notes quick enough. All because the teacher goes over these presentations very quickly. But there's still a lot to like about Science 6. Learning about the different scientific tools were pretty fun. Most of the labs were pretty fun. And I even got to see my 5th grade teacher enter the classroom sometime in October. Still though, I really don't understand why Science 6 has a low average grade. And I can thank the pandemic for doing that bullshit to me. Anyways, the average grade for Science 6 is 74.53%. My 5th period class on A days would be 6th grade seminar, which is a class talking about the life lessons of the world, which I find to be pretty cool. Not the most intriguing thing ever, but the students were really enjoyable, and that's what makes this class pretty enjoyable. Throughout the first and second quarter, the 6th grade seminar class took place in the exact same room as Social Studies 6. But for some reason in quarter 3, the 6th grade seminar class relocated to the library. And I still won't understand to this very day why 6th grade seminar relocated to the library. Anyways, 6th grade seminar is a really good class, giving itself an average grade of 86.43%. On B days, my 5th period class would be lunch. And no, this wasn't the lunch period for 6th grade that I was super invested in, but was still pretty alright. I had a pretty decent set of friends in this lunch period, and comparing to 7th period lunch, there were actually a lot more students in this lunch period, which can definitely make the social environment a little bit awkward, but I still had a really solid time with this lunch period. My 6th period class would be Social Studies 6, which was one of those classes I actually said that I disliked out loud. And Social Studies 6 remains the second worst 6th grade class academically. The lessons were okay, as we were mainly talking about the Stone Age, Neolithic Age, and archaeology, but none of those lessons really put a taste in my mouth. But there was one cool thing I gotta say about Social Studies 6. There was a Wrecker Out the Series video I made back in December called BLS Past, and it's basically a video of me showcasing the lessons that I've learned in social studies. That was definitely pretty cool, but the rest of the class wasn't that cool, giving itself an average grade of 78.87%, the second lowest of the year. And here is the moment we have all been waiting for. 7th period lunch on A days. Oh my god. Even though this doesn't technically count as a class, if it really did count as a class, 7th period lunch would actually be in my top 5. I'm not even joking. And that's all thanks to the friend I've talked about in my gym portion of the video, Jasmine. Now this is obviously not her face, but let's just say she looked just as good as Freeren. She was just a super fun friend to hang out with, along with her 2 other friends, Gavin and Matthew. Jasmine was the reason I did those pencil tricks, which inspired the Wrecker Out the Series video, Pencil Magic. And do you want to know what the pencil magic tricks were like? Check this out.
What's going on, everybody? It's the real life Cultix. I got a pencil right here. And do you want to know what I do every single day when I see Jasmine? I put the pencil in my hair, and then I shake it off.
I'm not even kidding, that actually impressed her. And every day when I enter 7th period lunch, Jasmine really wants me to sit at her table with her friends. And just to let you know, all of her friends during quarter 3 were girls. So you could really tell how easy it was for me to get Riz back then. And also, there were 2 8th grade girls that wanted to sit with me while I was all alone at one point. They never called me by my real name, as the first name they called me was Jaquan before they started to call me Sammy. In fact, they called me Sammy so much that they're one of the main reasons why my username in 2022 was called Lag02, since the 02 stood for those 2 girls that called me Sammy. One final thing about the pencil nonsense is that I used to make Pennsylvanian jokes a lot. The capital of Pennsylvania is Pencil Factory. Overall, my favorite lunch period by far. Anyways, my 7th period class on B days would be Math 6. And because I have math for 8th period as well, I feel like talking about this class now. This is easily one of my favorite math courses, not just because it is the introduction to algebra, but it's because of the set of classmates, which I find to be one of the best of all time. A lot of the friends I made in that class were girls, including my online girlfriend, whose name is Miley, but goes by Adorable Maggie on YouTube. So why haven't I dated her in person yet? complicated reasons. But anyways, the algebraic work is amazing. As you may get the hint in a lot of these chapters that I'm really good at math. In fact, I was so good at math that in February of 2020, I was invited to a mathematician contest, along with Adorable Maggie, her friends, and one other boy. And when I entered that contest, Jasmine happens to be there, and ended up being really shocked to see me at the contest. So I guess she liked me for my stupidity, I guess. And since I was invited to a mathematician contest, you could really tell that the work was a piece of cake. Which is why the average grade remains one of the highest of all middle school years, with an 89.65%. And the last class that would end off each of my 6th grade school days would be ICT Support 6. This was the very first study hall class for me, and honestly, I really like it. Out of every ICT class, this contains the most amount of classmates with about 12 of them. And they were all relatively nice, and sometimes I tutor them with some homeworks that they have trouble with. Which makes this a great way to end off pretty consistently good days of 6th grade. Now, I definitely had a lot of extracurricular activities, but I didn't attend any clubs for 6th grade. It was just a couple of field trips and 2 award ceremonies. For the 2 field trips that I could remember, they were both really fun. One of them was in October, and it was a trip to the beach. And the other one was on Friday the 13th in December of 2019. And this field trip took place in a theater where we were watching a Frozen play. Yeah, you know Frozen, the franchise? I actually watched the sequel in November 2019. Anyways, the 2 award ceremonies were really fun. The first one took place in December 2019, in which I got an attendance award for showing up to school every single day. And the second award ceremony took place in March 2020, just 2 weeks before the pandemic started. And I received an honor roll award for having an average grade above 85, which I found to be a great accomplishment, even though some of my friends got the principal's list, where their grades are 95 or above. Anyways, let's get into the out-of-school activities and what made 6th grade so special. This was the first full school year for my YouTube channel, and throughout most of this year, I made a lot of Wreck-It Ralph plush videos before ultimately discontinuing Wreck-It Ralph this series on January 6th, 2020 due to COPPA automatically marking my videos made for kids. I now get why COPPA does this, but I still have PTSD from that one day alone. And I never made Wreck-It Ralph the series episodes ever again. Well, on my main channel. Because I saved a lot of new Wreck-It Ralph the series episodes on my computer, so I decided to upload them to the classic Ice Across YouTube channel, and they're still there today. And about a week after the pandemic started, I reached my very first 100 subscribers in March 2020. And I gotta say, that was quite an accomplishment because I had such shitty quality videos on my channel back then. And do you want to know how exactly I got 100 subscribers? Well, before the coronavirus outbreak occurred, I promoted my YouTube channel like I was promoting an ad. And quite a few of my peers from my school actually subscribed to my YouTube channel, including Jasmine, who allegedly watched one of my Wreck-It Ralph the series episodes, which was Summer Pop Saves the Day. And throughout most of 6th grade, I actually made a lot of new real-life friends and even a lot of new online friends. And the majority of them were female because I had a feminine-like voice.
Haha! Chewy? Like a dog toy? Hey, Big Bad Wookie! Chew on this!
And I also was very lucky to have a birthday party, and that birthday party took place literally a week before the pandemic. Speaking of which, I actually didn't have a very bad time with the pandemic. I became best friends with Super Junior DJ 317 at this time. I made a lot of plush videos with this guy, and also going to the beach with him a lot. And me and my family somehow booked a vacation to Florida during the pandemic. I have no idea how that worked. And of course, before the pandemic, there were a lot of really special days like November 29th, 2019, which I want to recap this day. November 29th, 2019 was a day that took place on Thanksgiving break, and the first part of the day was going to the movie theaters to watch Frozen 2, which was the very last time I watched a movie in my local movie theater, as that movie theater closed down during the pandemic and it's still currently abandoned today. Later, me and my family went to Home Depot to get some Christmas decorations, and while my brother was looking to see if we could buy the AT-AT Walker Christmas inflatable, Jasmine literally walks right past me. And the next school day when I saw her, I literally told her I saw her at Home Frickin' Depot, a place not known to see the love of your life randomly appear. Now, obviously, she's not the love of my life anymore because, well, she's dating now, and you know how I feel about people dating.
You think this is cute? You think this is fucking funny? All this shit?
Seriously, couples, fuck off. Anyways, after I saw Jasmine at Home Depot, I was in such a really good mood. I decorated the Christmas tree at this time, talking a little bit about that situation.
Yeah, I like school. I have friends. Yeah, a load of friends. Okay.
Wait, you have a friend named Jasmine?
I also went to the Kalahari water resorts at this time, testing out a lot of new slides, which I found to be a pretty fun trip as well. And also because this is my very first middle school year, I go to youth group every Tuesday, and there was a trip to a retreat camp in Pennsylvania, and it was a really fun first time as well. My roommate during this trip was an 8th grade magician who actually taught me how to whistle on the ride back, which was once again proof that 6th grade really was building my character. And I honestly think that's everything I really need to say for 6th grade because there is so much good stuff I really had to say about this year. Aside from the pandemic, 6th grade is the definition of a legendary year. It contains very welcoming classes, the students being at their best since pre-K, the extracurricular and out-of-school activities being top tier, and this school year remained an extremely welcoming starter year for middle school. There is just so many really good memories to the point where I can't even list them all in this chapter. That goes to show how great 6th grade is. Unfortunately, this almost perfect year ended abruptly on March 13th, 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic spreading. And March 13th, 2020 was on a Friday, meaning that the last day of 6th grade was on Friday the 13th.
Coincidence? I think not!
That definitely ain't no damn coincidence for sure. I'm starting to think Friday the 13th is real. And even though the pandemic wasn't all that awful, this was the only middle school year where I did not get my yearbook. So I can't really go through the old memories by book, showcasing what made 6th grade so amazing. And that is exactly why 6th grade is not ranked number 1 on my school ranking anymore. In fact, it's not even ranked as my favorite middle school year anymore, so that can give you a hint of what number 1 is. Oh yeah, spoiler alert for those who hate spoilers.
Armor! The speech is my recital. I think it's very vital to rock a rhyme that's right on time. Here we go. It's tricky to rock a rhyme, to rock a rhyme that's right on time. It's tricky. It's tricky, 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 tricky. SMLmerch.com. Go buy it right now. Go buy it. Go buy it. Buy it. Buy it. Buy it.
I actually have the SML box, by the way. Anyways, on to my final chapter of what I would call my favorite school year of all time. Well, here we have it. We're at the final stop of the video before I could officially call retirement on YouTube. So do you guys remember my 8th grade analysis video? Now, it is the first school analysis video, but here is why I consider this video to be the most inaccurate review yet. Not only does it contain my synchronized CapCut voice, but it remains a super overcritical school review and compares 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in a very biased way, which is why my favorite school year of all time is 8th grade. This remains one of the most transitional school years for me, and for so many reasons. First of all, the school transportation upgraded for me. From preschool all the way up until December 2021, my main source of school transportation was on a small school bus. But since Gabe, who I talked about in my 7th grade era, made fun of me for still using the small bus, I officially changed my school transportation from a small bus to a big bus. And even though we were forced to wear face masks in 8th grade, it thankfully didn't happen for the entirety of the year, as this face mask nonsense ended around January 2022. Also in January 2022, it was the first month where I actually brought my phone to school. Since you know, I was incapable of bringing my phone to school in the previous school years. My middle school did enforce a lot of rules about the cell phones, but it honestly wasn't that bad. Let's also not forget that I was not involved in 1, but 2 clubs throughout 8th grade, while also containing 2 field trips and potentially the best YouTube era for me. Anyways, let's go over the classes, which I think are pretty fun. My first period class on A days would be physical education. Yeah, I have physical education early in the morning this year. Aside from that one problem, physical education for 8th grade was pretty fun. It probably isn't my favorite physical education class, but there is a lot to like about it. First of all, the sports were good. I didn't particularly enjoy football or volleyball, as football was a pretty boring sport and volleyball was very frustrating. I did enjoy 3 sports though. They were floor hockey, badminton, and nitro ball. For floor hockey, it was kind of a comfort sport and I've gotten a couple of goals in floor hockey. For badminton, this was the first year where I started to get really good at badminton, and playing the sport by itself became very fun. Nitro ball was kind of the same story, but there was one hilarious event that occurred. While I was trying to grab my stuff, one of the classmates accidentally spiked the ball and that ball hit me in the family jewels. 1 ball hitting 2 balls. That is freaking hilarious. For sure, it was painful, but I kinda laughed at that event. The students were kinda mixed. I mean, I did have a group of friends in my physical education class for 8th grade, but there was another group of students who were really annoying and just straight up dicks to me. Other than the students, this class is great. My first period class on B days would be health, which was one of those 3 classes in my 8th grade analysis video that I absolutely disliked. Of course, I don't dislike it as much nowadays because of my health class for 12th grade, but here's why health for 8th grade was not fun. We were learning about the reproductive system, which honestly wasn't that bad. But when we got to the pregnancy lesson, I gagged over this fucking disgusting lesson. Why do middle schoolers have to learn this stuff? Just save them for high school. But the only reason why health remains a painfully average class is because we were learning about the depressive disorders and how smoking can be very bad for your health, which I found to be pretty decent. But still though, the lessons about the human body give me horrible PTSD from the living environment, which is actually my least favorite class of 8th grade. Health remains a painfully average class with an overall grade of 78.17%. My second period class would be algebra, which does remain a sudden name change because I've already learned algebra starting 6th grade. And just like with most math classes, algebra is really exciting and just super satisfying. I sometimes have this class for 2 periods, and what me and my classmates do in algebra for 3rd period is just coloring projects, which was pretty fun even though I couldn't complete some of the projects. The work is a cakewalk at times, even though there were some lessons that were pretty challenging. And I had a Regents for this class, and I aced the Regents with a grade above an 80. I honestly don't have that much to say about this class because this class has been consistently good, giving itself an average grade of 90.58%. one of the highest grades ever in middle school. My third period class on A days would still be Algebra 1, but my third period class on B days would be Living Environment, which I have the same class throughout the entirety of 4th period. Oh brother, this class stinks! But there was at least some redeeming qualities I could say about Living Environment. First of all, the teachers are really nice. One of them literally does staring contests with me all the time, and since she wears glasses, I'm usually the one to beat her at staring contests. And that's pretty much everything I like about Living Environment, because the rest of this class sucks ass. It's another Regents-based class, and I found this to be an insanely challenging class. There were a lot of practice tests for the Regents, and I failed almost all of them because the lessons in Living Environment are so stupid and not even meant for middle schoolers. Speaking of the practice tests, I failed the Living Environment Regents with a 52%, which is 13% below the passing grade. Why? Why do middle schoolers have to learn this bullshit? And the lessons by themselves are not even fun either. Why would I ever care about how my body functions? I'm not gonna be that one guy saying that in the next 10 years. So anyways, even though I failed the Regents, I did pass this class overall with a 69.33%, just barely above the minimal passing grade of 65%. Also, why is this class even named Living Environment when we're clearly learning about biology? I don't know, it just doesn't make any sense for me. My 5th period class would be Social Studies 8, which is a very unique class and for one main reason. Even though I hate online work nowadays, this class actually represents what online work could have been. Almost every one of the worksheets are online, and they're actually pretty easy to get through. The teachers were the main highlight as they called me by the name Revolution, since my real name is Lucian. And they actually put on the song Revolution from the Beatles, which then eventually became my favorite Beatles song. I got nothing more to say about social studies. It is a great class, giving itself an average grade of 86.5%. My 6th period class would be lunch. And yes, I have lunch for both A days and B days. I honestly think lunch for B days is slightly better, but both of them I like for similar reasons. I made friends in both A day and B day lunch, and specifically in the B day portion, I sat at a table with 3 girls. And I also made friends with someone in that lunch period who goes by the name Joshua, who was actually in my comment section a few years ago. And let's also not forget that this was the lunch period where I found out that my Iggy Fan #1 account was hacked. But of course it was replenished around 2 days later. My 7th period class would be ICT support, which doesn't remain as interesting as a lot of other ICT classes, but it still remains pretty fun otherwise. Like with 7th grade ICT support, there is a lot of icebreaker questions and I have to answer those questions in any way I could. This class is also very useful for making up missing work, which makes this a pretty reliable class since I had a lot of missing work back in 8th grade. However, one main problem with this class is the wasp problem. Sometimes when I enter the class, there is a wasp in the room. And since the classroom size is pretty small, I often exit the classroom until the wasp dies. At its peak, there were 3 freaking wasps inside this small-ass classroom. That was some pretty crazy stuff, but I still indeed like ICT support for 8th grade. My 8th period class would be English 8. Out of the 3 classes I disliked in my 8th grade analysis video, English 8 manages to be the best out of all of them. And I really have no idea why I dislike this class so much. Well, other than the average grade. The teachers were surprisingly really good here, and I really have no idea why I called them annoying at first. They were literally one of the main reasons as to why my username in the summer of 2022 and onward was called Lag02. And why is that exactly? Well, when I walked into the class one day, I was wearing a shirt that had the name Larry on it, which is a quote from one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Impractical Jokers. And ever since that day of me wearing that Larry shirt, the teachers will not stop calling me Larry. In fact, one of the friends who I made, who was a non-binary friend named Sam, doesn't even know what my real name is and only knows me by the name Larry. However, the Larry portion was not the only reason why my username was Lag02. People also kept on calling me Shaggy because they believe I look like him.
Really? Do I actually look like him?
But that thankfully was another reason why my username was called Lag02, since I mixed the names Shaggy and Larry to make Laggy, and the shorter name for Laggy is Lag, and that's how I got the lag in Lag02. Anyways, the work is kinda boring. I've definitely fallen asleep in this class a few times, but none were really all that bad. The chapter books were okay though. The first one I read was A Raisin in the Sun. This play about a family trying to move out of poverty sounds like a really great plot. And the humor here was mostly pretty funny aside from a couple of racist jokes. And the racist jokes I'm talking about are just your typical N-word jokes, which I just never really found to be very funny. It's a pretty good book, but not much really goes on in A Raisin in the Sun. And the second chapter book I read in English 8 would be The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, which is a story that took place in one of the worst genocides of all time, the Holocaust, caused by the infamous Austrian painter. I gotta say, this book is really good, but the ending absolutely ruined it. And that's because the two main characters literally died in a gas chamber. And since those two characters died, this story doesn't lead to an actual resolution, which makes this story very sad and depressing. It's not a bad book to read, but it's just not one of my favorites. And I think that's pretty much everything I gotta say about English 8. I did like this class overall, but the academic performances in this class were pretty poor. The average grade isn't as bad as 7th grade English's grade, but it still gets a low average grade of 74.32%. And the final class that would end off each of my 8th grade school days would be Spanish. This is my best class academically, but the reason why Spanish is not my favorite class is because of the students. Even if my perspectives have changed a lot over the years, I still believe the students in Spanish are just really bad. They're just not fun people to hang out with, and I am bullied to literal death in this class. In fact, nobody even applauded that I won a Kahoot in this class. The students will also not stop with the talking, so me and the teacher team up to shut the students up, and they will never listen. That's pretty much everything I gotta say about the students, because I've had that bad of an experience with them in this class. Other than the students being a major hassle, the academics in this class are really good. A lot of tests that I've taken in this Spanish class managed to have a grade of 100. And for the Spanish regions, just like with the algebra regions, I aced the regions with a grade above an 80. This was also the class where I had a field trip to a Spanish restaurant, which I found to be a pretty fun trip even though it was a little underwhelming. And also, the teacher was super likable. She considered me her favorite student and encouraged me and a couple of other students to take honors Spanish in high school, which I've done twice. And that's pretty much all I could say about Spanish for 8th grade. Spanish is one of the best academically performing classes for me, not just in 8th grade, giving itself an average grade of 93%. And those were pretty much all of the classes this year. They were actually surprisingly really good. However, life on that big bus was pretty rough. Not only did I witness a fight which caused the school bus to pull over, but I also quite literally recorded some footage of how obnoxious the students really are on that bus.
Nigga, take it.
Bro, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what was the purpose of that? Why did you just strip? Hey, he has another one? What the fuck? No, it was the same one. Oh, I thought he took that shit with him. I looked over the...
It's no wonder most of the students in my schools are like actual losers. Some of them literally made me do weird shit, such as quote-unquote slurping some salt, and literally forcing me to say I have a boner because I have strong bones. What the fuck is wrong with you people? It's no wonder this generation is just so cooked. Anyways, the extracurricular activities were insanely fun. I had 2 field trips this year, both of them being in May 2022. I already talked about the Spanish restaurant field trip, but the second field trip I went to was the Topgolf field trip, which was definitely a lot more fun since I had a group of friends in this Topgolf field trip. Oh, and I'm really good at golf, even for a beginner. This was also the field trip where I couldn't even access my main account because, well, it was hacked around this time. Anyways, what were my 2 clubs like? Every Saturday from March 5th to May 7th, 2022, I attended 2 clubs and I believe they were both really fun. The first club I attended was the coding club, which is a pretty fun class even though it has literally nothing to do with coding. Most of this club is literally just remote controlling spears from an application called Spiro EDU, which I did find to be pretty fun, I'll give them that. This was also the class that made me change my thoughts on the movie Turning Red. I remembered back in early 2022 when I called this movie overrated. But after I watched it in coding class, I can guarantee it is one of my favorite Pixar movies. Now, as of me recording this video, I don't believe Turning Red is in my top 10 favorite Pixar movies anymore, but I still think it's a good Pixar movie. The second club I went to, literally after coding club, would be the cooking club, which was also very fun, and that's mainly because of the social environment. While I was just working on a project for the first day of cooking club, there were 2 girls that were literally talking about me, and one of them thinking that I was so cute. And do you want to know why I know this? They're literally saying all of this out loud. Now, it wasn't Adorable Maggie that said it because she wasn't in cooking club with me. Instead, it was a girl named Shaylin who literally debated with her friend named Ava to see if I actually was cute, which I found to be freaking hilarious. It gets even crazier when she literally complimented my own mom. And that was because I was in a call with my mom to let her pick me up. And Shaylin says hello, and she says that my mom is very pretty. I can't believe I literally said back in 8th grade that I'm not popular, even though I was popular. The cooking club was also the reason I first got into Snapchat. And I first created a Snapchat account on March 19th, 2022, before ultimately deactivating it in June 2026. And also, thank God I've never dated Shaylin because she is a Satanist now. This is actually what she reminds me of.
Men, explain why compliments make you shy.
It's because they do. Nobody compliments me anymore because of how isolated I am. During the last day of cooking club, the cake that I've been baking for a couple of weeks has officially been finished. And when I tasted it for the very first time, it was obviously delicious. And also, during the second last day of school, there was an end-of-the-year dance called the Dance Luau, which is only meant for 8th graders since they're moving on to high school. And I gotta say, it was a pretty disappointing dance, but it is still way better than the homecoming dance in 12th grade. And that's simply because I just had a little more fun, and there wasn't nearly as much couples in middle school as there are in high school. The 8th grade picnic was also really fun as well, especially since there was a thunderstorm coming, so we went inside to avoid the thunderstorm. And one final thing to add on to my extracurricular activities. I got a yearbook this year and there were tons of signatures on them, including some of my old friends from 6th grade like Jasmine. Which makes this really shocking because back in 8th grade, I thought I was lonely. And I certainly wasn't throughout my 8th grade school year. Now on to the out of school activities, which I think are probably the most fun I've ever had with them. Almost every Tuesday, I go to church for youth group. And even though I did go to youth group from 6th grade all the way to 12th grade, 8th grade youth group remains a special place in my heart. Week by week between February and June 2022, I kept on making friends and I was hugged over and over again. And literally just a day after my 14th birthday when I went to youth group, everyone who attended the church that day gave me one of the best gifts I could ever wish for. Literally all of the church members hugged me all at the same time. Seriously, how did I call this a bad school year? Also, in June 2022, my church hosted this all-nighter, which became my very first all-nighter. Unfortunately, I don't usually stay up very late, so I kind of fell asleep around 4 a.m. There are other very important events I did with the church back in the summer of 2022. I got baptized for the second time since I didn't believe I was blessed enough. I could definitely go over the other church events, but I feel like this list will go on for ages. I went to Florida in August 2022, trying to film the Lag 02 vs Tyler Sand 2023 NAUTTP movie before it ultimately got cancelled. I also went to Hershey Park just a few days before 9th grade started, which I thought that trip was pretty fun as well. This was also the last year where I got to visit my mom's friend's house, since my mom's friend moved to South Carolina. The reason why I'm mentioning this event is because my mom's friend had 3 cats and I loved all of them. One of them was a tortoise-shell cat named Sophie, while the other 2 cats were black cats named Jane and Joseph. It's just really sad that I don't get to relive these memories. Anyways, the YouTube and online era remained the best of all time. In February 2022, just a day before I reached 800 subscribers, an ex-online friend showed me what Google Street View is like. And after using Google Street View for the very first time, I am obsessed with searching for abandoned houses. And I actually still do this today, online and in person. This Google Street View event happened on February 11th, and on February 12th, when it was my 800 subscriber special, what I did before live streaming was roller skating, and the roller skating portion was pretty fun. Well, aside from breaking my chin, which may have been the reason why I threw up on Valentine's Day. Speaking of the live stream, it was really fun, and Patrick Bateman was by far the best part of the live stream.
What is that?
It's coming from bruh.
Can you stop learning the music? It's gonna get annoying.
I'm gonna put my blanket over my head and ears right now.
Have some distance braces. Example, 2006 and 2006 because 2017. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't doing the collective game.
Dude, I don't know you. Who are you?
It's because he spent
Mario Kart. Mario Kart video.
Hello?
Mario Kart Tour. Mario Kart
I
Tour.
don't like Mario Kart Tour. It scares
Okay.
me. I'm very scared of Mario Kart Tour.
I respect your
It's
opinion.
like, if I'm being honest with you, Rose, if I'm being honest, I do like Patrick Bateman, but
Okay.
I do like.
Oh my god. Please, can you just... It's
What
so
do you mean,
annoying when I
God?
see you.
God.
What's going on?
Actually, I got it when I was 7 or 8. Actually, I watched
Sup,
it.
bitches?
I just quickly had to fix my camera real quick.
I just read,
I haven't seen you in...
Hey, on this character.
I'm new to
Stop
you.
with the music! It's so annoying with your...
Okay, I'm hiding. I'm going to put that user in timeout.
Put him in backstage. Put Patrick in backstage, please.
I also binge watched SMG4 a lot at this time, but I didn't really watch all of his content until 2026, where he quit YouTube by then.
Oh my fucking god, dude! Iggy Fan, that is funny.
Wish you were like that again instead of being up my ass almost all the time. I also watched a lot of Beluga, who is a Discord-based YouTuber, and posts a lot of pretty funny videos if I do say so myself. There were other pretty funny clips I still have saved onto my phone.
And then you put music.
Oh, hi, I'm Donald. I'm Donald. I can't speak. I have a cold. I'm really silly. We gotta get Iggy's brother Nicky to do the voice. Caw,
two! Keep it up, you two.
Even though I was heavily influenced by the Vyond community and I was involved in a lot of drama, such as the Roy Get Hard drama, but all of this did help me improve as a person. And I could take criticism more than most Vyond community adults, and I'm only 18 years old. The major milestone of my YouTube channel was reaching 1,000 subscribers in May of 2022. With many of my online friends helping me, including my online girlfriend Adorable Maggie. And since I watched SMG4 a lot in 2022, I hosted the SMG4 Marble Race, which didn't last long because of poor viewership, but I still had one hell of an intro. I honestly could list so much more good qualities about my out-of-school activities, but I feel like those were the more important ones. And that is exactly why 8th grade is ranked as my #1 favorite school year of all time. Thank you, Morton, Adorable Maggie, Becky, Sage, Steve, Scarlett, What's Up, TACCP, PJ Crenshaw, JJ64, Hero Harvey, aka Patrick Bateman, David Wilson, and even Roy Get Hard for this crazy online adventure. I absolutely loved sending Becky fan mail back in 2021, and I love every single hater that has annoyed me in the past, even the ones that still annoy me today, because it says in the Bible to love your enemies. Thank you, 8th grade, for being my final review.
Hello everyone, this is Crossing Reviews in a green cap and gown containing sunglasses. So, this was the final straw to gain relevancy again, but still haven't got the chance to reach monetization. So at this point, after many years of trying to gain an audience of my choice, I've learned something very important. It's simply not worth it anymore. I have a whole new life ahead of me, I'm getting my driver's license soon, and I have all these goals I need to accomplish without having YouTube as my source of income. So yeah, that's right, I'm officially leaving the Cultix YouTube channel today. Thank you all so much for the support over the years, even when I was at my lowest points ever. Even if I have learned a lot coming from YouTube, I simply can't make projects like these anymore. I hope to live a normal, much happier life and lay low from the internet drama as protection from potential self-harm. Starting July 4th, 2026, a new chapter awaits for the man behind the Cultix YouTube channel, which is me. And for the following 4th of July and onwards, starting 2027, I'll post yearly updates based on how life has been without internet drama, and I'll still be somewhat available on YouTube once I am no longer posting any more YouTube videos. If you have any questions for me, just ask them in the comments, or you could follow me on any other social media like Instagram via text, because I do not answer calls regularly unless the call is from a normal person. Thank you very much for watching my YouTube channel.
thank you very much for being a supporter of me. Just thank you very much for knowing who I am and I was. I hope you all can find Jesus Christ soon, as he is the main reason you guys will enter heaven one day. I hope you all have the best of luck with your future lives. And this is Crossing Reviews, also known as Cultix, also known as Isocross, also known as Lagosto, also known as Lago2, also known as Iggy Fan #1, also known as Wreck Route the Series and Vanellope the Series, and also known as Lucius Playtime, officially signing off from the internet. Stay fresh! Goodbye, everybody. Hope you all enjoy life.